Chapter 1503. At that moment, Wang Ling peeped at this strange sixth madam through the king's eye. A normal person had 100,000 strands of hair. If all the hair on sixth madam's head was bound to ghosts, that was to say, she commanded at least 100,000 ghost soldiers. While it was easy for Wang Ling to reach out and pull out the hair, he had to consider the seriousness of the consequences. The main thing was that he currently didn't know whether these 100,000 strands of hair were bound to ghosts. But once he pulled them out, would the ghosts break free from sixth madam's control and start a new wave of riots? These were all situations that Wang Ling needed to consider. Even if these ghosts rebelled, it wouldn't be difficult for him to get rid of them. The main thing was that these ghosts weren't easy to control. Once something in a dissociated state was released, Wang Ling had the ability to clear them out. A lot of innocent people would suffer. After considering the above situation, Wang Ling came up with an idea. Since he couldn't guarantee that the ghosts wouldn't disperse and cause a new wave of riots, then he could start pulling them out one by one first. He would slowly feel things out, and finally decide whether or not to increase his strength based on the actual situation. Sure enough, there's something wrong with these three people. In front of the mirror, sixth madam picked up the strand of white hair that had fallen because of Yang's sacrifice. This strand of white hair had already curled and withered, without the slightest bit of moisture. It was as fragile as a gossamer, and would split and break at the slightest touch. But the fact was that this strand of white hair still had its uses. Demon spirit, you should be able to see through the white hair, right? Sixth madam asked. That's easy. Inside her, the shrill female voice spoke. As the core hub through which sixth madam controlled all the ghosts, the hair demon spirit's ability wasn't limited to using ghosts to complete various tasks from a super long distance, or directly using hair to manipulate people. Turn those people into the marionettes they want. Once the hair was bound to a strand of ghost, it would wither like a wilted flower. As the core, the demon spirit naturally had the ability to investigate the reason for the withering of these hairs. And this kind of ability, Mo Ling also called it flash spirit. She could easily see what had happened before Zhang sacrificed himself and withered. Before she acted, the demon spirit sneered. Do you want to guess who did it? I still suspect that Wang Xiao. The sixth madam replied. I heard that there's another female teaching assistant in their entourage. She's someone who hasn't been reported to us before. And this female teaching assistant seems to have an unusual relationship with Wang Xiao. Teacher-student love? Interesting. I don't know the specifics, but there's definitely something fishy about this person. Otherwise, Huaxiao Nation wouldn't have suddenly sent more people. The sixth madam calmly analyzed. A true master doesn't need protection. I'm afraid they're worried that this person will be too outstanding and cause some controversy. No matter what, we'll know once we take a look. Mo Ling smiled and said, leave it to me. Just like before, please give me the authority to control your body for a while. All right. The sixth madam nodded. This was the content of the contract. According to the contract, there was a time limit for the demon spirit to possess the body. Therefore, every time she switched souls, the sixth madam did not have the slightest apprehension, because she was the owner of the contract and had full control over the demon spirit. In about a breath's time, the sixth madam's black pupils turned pink, just like the death Barbie lipstick that often appeared in TV dramas. After the demon spirit possessed her body, apart from the color of her pupils, there were almost no other changes to her appearance. It was just that the surrounding temperature would suddenly drop and become gloomy and cold. But if someone saw it now, they would definitely feel strange. The sixth madam watched as a thin layer of frost began to form on the dressing mirror in front of her. The demon spirit couldn't help curling her lips. Full of confidence, she stretched out her hand and used her ability to probe the white hair on the table. A pink fluorescent light seeped out from her palm. Like a searchlight, it shone on the white hair for a few seconds. The demon spirit then made a puzzled sound. What did you see? Asked the sixth madam. I didn't see anything. The demon spirit had a big question mark on her head. I just saw a mosaic. How could this be? I find it strange too. I've never encountered this kind of situation before. The demon spirit frowned. I'll try again. After repeated attempts, the result was the same. It was still a mosaic. And the more she observed, the thicker the mosaic became. It was simply to the point of insanity. Can you project the same image on the mirror as before? I want to see it, the sixth madam requested. Of course. The demon spirit smiled indifferently. I have no reason to lie to you. We are one. At that moment, the person and the ghost clearly didn't realize the seriousness of the problem. When the demon spirit projected the mosaic on the mirror, a hand with distinct fingers and clearly visible knuckles actually appeared in the mosaic. What was this? The person and the ghost were covered at the same time. Following that, a kind of fear rushed to their heads, replacing all their thoughts at this moment. You can't run away, Wang Ling mused in his heart. With just one hand, the tremendous spiritual pressure suddenly dropped, causing the sixth madam's body to sink in. Except for her head, every inch of her body was directly stuffed into the ground. That feeling couldn't be described in words. The sixth madam and the demon spirit in her body almost exploded in an instant. What the hell was going on? Why had a hand suddenly popped out of the mirror? Furthermore, it had such tremendous power. Senior should also be a ghost, right? The demon spirit asked tentatively. May I know how I have offended Senior? She was trying to sound him out. Faced with this hand that had suddenly popped out of the mirror, both she and the sixth madam were scared out of their wits. A ghost? Wang Ling was speechless. This demon spirit didn't seem very smart. But it didn't matter. A misunderstanding was a misunderstanding. In any case, there was no need for him to explain everything. He didn't stand on ceremony as he directly attacked the trapped sixth madam. Just as he was hesitating whether to start with the hair at the hairline or the top of her head. After making the decision, Wang Ling pinched a strand of hair at the top of her head and gave it a violent tug. Ah! The sixth madam and the demon spirit instantly screamed at the same time. They felt as if their scalps had been electrified, and there was an intense burning sensation. The moment the hair was pulled out, it felt as if even their scalps were going to be ripped off. The demon spirit was extremely terrified. This ghost was too aloof. Not only was it powerful, it hadn't spoken the entire time. It actually wanted to pull out the hair as soon as it started. Bastard! This hurts. The demon spirit roared in its heart. On the other side, Wang Ling realized that after he had pulled out the hair, it seemed that a ghost had really been released and was wandering around the room. So he grabbed the ghost in passing. Poochie. He used 2 fingers to crush the ghost that was released. Green blood that ordinary cultivators wouldn't be able to detect sprayed out in the sixth madam's room like a meatball. This was the blood of a ghost. Because the sixth madam and the demon spirit had one body, she could also see this blood. When the green blood sprayed out, it splashed all over the sixth madam's body and face. Like a scene from a horror movie, the sixth madam was so frightened that she trembled. Senior. Please spare us, Senior. The woman and the ghost were so frightened that they started to cry. But Wang Ling was ruthless and didn't give them any chance at all as he started to pull out the second hair. With each hair he pulled out, he crushed a ghost that had been released. It was extremely steady. The poor sixth madam's scalp went numb as Wang Ling pulled out the hair. The intense burning sensation and the pain of peeling off her skin occurred every time he pulled. But pulling them out one by one was really too slow. Wang Ling was in the midst of his joy. But he heard Wang Ming's urging voice on the other side. He said that Immortal Harmony had finished using the toilet. Ah, I'm not done yet. Wang Ling frowned slightly. Looking at the 2 thumbnail-sized bald spots on the top of the sixth madam's head, he felt pity in his heart. But now, it seemed that he could only withdraw his ruthless iron hand for the time being. Just as he was about to withdraw his hand from the mirror, Wang Ling suddenly realized that the sixth madam and the demon spirit seemed to already regard him as a ghost. Then perhaps it would be better for him to leave his name as a deterrent. Thus, Wang Ling placed his hand directly on the thin layer of frost on the vanity mirror. He left his name, Young Wave. These 2 simple words gave the sixth madam and the demon spirit a great shock and a great F***K. What F*** King Young Wave? Chapter 1504. After Wang Ling withdrew his hand, Madam Sixth and the devil spirit in her body didn't return to their senses for a long time. The pink pupils dissipated and turned back into the black eyes of the sixth madam. Although her soul had switched back, her body still couldn't stop trembling. A ghost named Young Wave? Where did this almighty come from? Why did he have such a powerful ability? The sixth madam and Mo Ling had been plotting on Sun Island for many years, and thought that they had everything under control. However, he didn't expect that he would kick an iron plate at this time. Has there ever been a ghost named Holang on Sun Island? The sixth madam's face was pale with fright, and her lips were purple. The top of her head burned with pain. The burning sensation on the bald spot was ridiculously strong. It felt as if there were 100,000 Pikachu dancing on it with 100,000 volts at the same time. I have never heard of it. Mo Ling also had a lingering fear. She and Jiu Gongxing Hui had been planning for many years. In order to seize the main manual of the ghost record, she entered the Jiugong family. The main book of the ghost record recorded the top-notch ghosts that the Jiugong family had subdued over the years all over the world. The strength of the demon spirit would also reach an unimaginable peak. Unexpectedly, such a powerful ghost had appeared. The two of them were momentarily thrown into disarray. What do we do now? Nine Palaces' Star Radiance had originally thought that he was the one with the strategy, and Wang Ling's intervention had instantly thrown her into a panic. Don't worry, there's still room for maneuver. The demon spirit refused to give up. She felt that there might be a way to turn the situation around. That ghost called Young Wave is indeed very powerful. However, he also made a mistake. That is, he chose to stop just now. The two fingernail-sized bald spots on the top of our heads actually caused us very little damage. If we can obtain the main book of the ghost register and absorb all the ghosts in the main book, we will be able to obtain the ghost register. He might not be our match. You mean? Jiu Gongxing Hui frowned. The demonic spirit sighed. There's no other way. Although it's very risky, we can only act in advance in the current situation. As long as I can absorb the entire main volume of the ghost register, I might even be able to devour that ghost called Junior Wave together with it. Can it be swallowed? Jiu Gongxing Hui's eyes instantly lit up. Sure. The demon spirit was brimming with confidence. If it's also devoured by us, then forget about this Sun Island. At that time, my hair will be able to permeate the entire world and even outer space, and this will also be able to realize the grand plan of controlling the world. I see. Jiu Gongxing Hui nodded lightly. As the hair demon spirit said, their actions were indeed risky. All these years, she had been in Jiugong's house, constantly searching for a way to enter the underground seal. After so many years of exploration, Jiu Gongxing Hui believed that he had basically grasped the method to open the underground sealed passage, and there was a 96% chance of success. To be on the safe side, they set the grand plan for 3 months later. But Wang Ling's appearance had been so sudden that they had no choice but to bring forward their plan. It was risky, but it was also a helpless move. The ghost known as Junior Wave was a huge threat. Who knew when the enemy would choose to make a move against them? How about it? Have you thought it through? At this time, the demon spirit's shrill voice sounded in his mind. She was still encouraging the Nine Palace Starlight. After a long silence, Jiu Gongxing Hui finally nodded and said, I understand. Because Immortal Harmony was next to him, it was actually a little risky for Wang Ling to continue to pull out his hair. He had no choice but to stop for the time being. In any case, the purpose of the warning had been achieved. It was just to let these two people live a little longer. No matter what his plan was, Wang Ling felt that it would be ineffective. After all, the gap in strength was very obvious. Sorry everyone, I stored a little too much. I've kept you waiting. Immortal Harmony was a little embarrassed. In fact, he hadn't completely released his hair yet, and there was still some left in his stomach. But because of time constraints, Immortal Harmony realized that he couldn't continue to delay like this. Otherwise, he would miss the best time to observe the sunrise. Thus, Immortal Harmony used the third major function of the anus in addition to defecation and urination on the toilet, the feces-breaking spell, to interrupt his detoxification work. It looked like a tasteful piece of writing, but in fact, it wasn't the author who was using the water. Instead, it was for the benefit of constipated readers. It could produce the desire to defecate. Thus, it could detoxify and nourish one's skin. After more than an hour, Wang Ling and the others finally arrived at the Sunrise Observatory on Heavenly Stem Mountain. The Jiugong family had made arrangements in advance to reserve the entire observatory. It was the best time and the best place, and there would be no outsiders to disturb them. Everyone, please enjoy quietly. I'll go prepare breakfast. After taking everyone to the designated location, Immortal Harmony very consciously retreated. He went to a small safe house on the observatory to prepare breakfast. He had already put all the ingredients into his storage bag. Choosing this time to prepare breakfast was in fact to leave enough space for the 4 young people. Although Immortal Harmony had a problem with his sexual orientation, he was also an experienced person. He respected everyone's love, and hoped that everyone could obtain the most beautiful love. At that moment, on Heavenly Stem Mountain, the sun had already risen, peeking out little by little from the distant horizon. Wang Ling sensed that all things had awakened from silence, and that dawn had arrived after the darkness. The serenity in his heart suddenly made him feel incomparably comfortable. Lotus Sun stood next to Wang Ling, and also looked ahead. The two of them seemed very close, but also very far away. Wang Ming wanted to go up and tease Wang Ling, but this scene was so beautiful that this usually noisy person actually quietened down at that moment. Jai Yin smiled slightly and reached out to tug on Wang Ming's sleeve. Then, the two of them stood on the other side, leaving the best angle for Wang Ling and Lotus Sun to observe the sunrise. The sun, which had left the horizon, was bright red. It slowly moved upward, passing through the clouds and mist in the distance, like a beautiful agate plate, illuminating everything in a brilliant light. Wang Ling. Lotus Sun opened her mouth as if she wanted to say something to Wang Ling. Wang Ling turned his face slightly to look at Lotus Sun, and gently made a shushing gesture. The two of them were too close to each other. That familiar aura made Lotus Sun's face burn uncontrollably. Do you want to see it too? Wang Ling opened his mouth. Lotus Sun thought he was talking to her, but at that moment, Wang Ling summoned Jinka. It was placed on the railing of the observatory at the top of the mountain. She thought she was disturbing Wang Ling, and the thought of retreating rose in her heart. Jinka suddenly poked his head out and stuck his hands between them, holding them on either side. At that moment, Wang Ling was holding Jinka's hand, and Jinka was holding Lotus Sun's. There were no unnecessary words. Only at this moment the most beautiful sunrise was peaceful. A cool breeze accompanied by the red glow in the distance dyed the faces of the young man and girl crimson. Chapter 1505. The sunrise on Heavenly Stem Mountain was too beautiful to behold. Everything was born amidst the peace and tranquility, which made one feel relaxed and happy. Lotus Sun looked at him out of the corner of her eye. Lotus Sun looked at Wang Ling out of the corner of her eye. Although she wasn't directly holding the youngster's hand, she felt a sense of peace and great satisfaction that she had never felt before. It was also at that moment that she suddenly realized that her desire was actually lower than she had imagined. Even if it was just holding hands, she looked forward to the day when this blockhead youngster would take the initiative to hold her hand. That day might not be too soon, but she thought it shouldn't be too far away either. Monk Jin Deng had said that as long as she had enough time and patience, it would always be possible. She had a lot of time, a lot of patience, and a love that was far beyond the youngster's imagination. 1 year, 2 years, 5 years, 10 years, looking at the brilliant morning glow in front of her, the girl believed that one day her heart would be able to melt all the frozen hearts like the boundless sunlight piercing through the clouds in front of her. In the warm light of the rising sun in the east, Immortal Harmony laid out a thick and soft picnic table mat on the sunrise observation spot on the top of Heavenly Stem Mountain. As the Jiugong family's #1 foreign affairs officer, Immortal Harmony was already very skilled at receiving guests. Not only was he attentive, he also did things with a sense of propriety and ceremony. Dressed in a tuxedo suit, he looked like a dashing black deacon as he concentrated on placing the roast meat in the wooden hut on a tray. At that moment, Immortal Harmony was holding a crystal knife in his white gloves as he used an extremely precise operation to evenly cut thin slices of meat and put them on a gorgeous dinner plate. This meat doesn't look like it's fully cooked? Jiayin asked. Teacher Yuji, you have a good eye. This is superior dragon pork. I only roasted it to 90% done, and I'll need to borrow the sun's light to cook the remaining 10%. Immortal Harmony smiled slightly. Then, he cracked a few raw eggs onto the meat slices on the dinner plate. At some point, he had taken out 2 huge spotlights to focus the light of the sunrise on the dinner plate. The egg white, the egg liquid, and the meat slices were roasted little by little, giving off a hot aroma. What a special method. Jiayin had always been very interested in cooking. Feeling that she had mastered it, she looked at Wang Ming. I'll cook for you when we get back, okay? Murdering one's husband is a serious crime. Wang Ming said, shivering. Jiayin rolled his eyes at Wang Ming. You don't believe me, I'm very good now. They would try it themselves first. I'll only let you eat it after I'm sure it's safe. Factor? That's not necessary. Why do you have to do this to yourself? During breakfast, the two of them bickered. On the side, Lotus Sun couldn't help snickering. Sometimes she thought about it. Such a small quarrel was also a small happiness. Very romantic. And such a small happiness. Actually, she also wanted to have. This was the first time Wang Ling had seen this kind of cooking technique, and he couldn't help but want to taste it. Just as he was about to pick up his chopsticks, he saw Immortal Harmony suddenly stretch out a hand. Student Wang, please wait. The most important thing to eat this dish is the chili sauce. Chili sauce. At this time, everyone's attention was focused on the cry of the immortals. That's right. The most important thing to eat this dish is this bottle of chili sauce. The cry of the immortals took out a whole bottle of the limited edition product from its storage bag. Oh, I know this. Laogang Goose chili sauce. This is a limited edition product. Jiayin recognized the very expensive chili sauce in the crystal packaging at one glance. It said that the production process for this limited edition chili sauce is very complicated, and the chili peppers inside are all carefully selected small chili peppers. Although these small chili peppers are small, they are actually heavier than ordinary chili peppers because they are of high quality. So before selecting them, a large number of chili peppers are tied to a flying car. Then the huge centrifugal force generated by the flying car on the racing track, especially when it turns a corner, is used to filter out these high-quality little chili peppers from a special filter at high speed. Everyone. This was the first time Wang Ling had heard of such a strange method of separating chili peppers, and he was stunned and marveled at why there were always people in modern society who had so much free time. That's right. After hearing Jiayin's explanation, the cry of the immortals nodded. I never thought that Teacher Yuji would actually know so much. Amazing. Not really. It's just some trivial knowledge. Jiayin was overjoyed at the compliment. She had always been interested in cooking, and it wasn't just a day or two ago. Otherwise, she wouldn't have learned from Mother Wan back then. Wang Ming actually still had lingering fears after his experience with the dragon pork chop. He felt that he would have to solve this problem sooner or later. Otherwise, it would be a big problem sooner or later. Wang Ming pondered this in his heart as he watched the cry of the immortals pour a spoonful of chili sauce onto his plate. By the way, why is this chili sauce called Laogang Goose? At that moment he asked a question. Because all the original chili peppers were screened by a penguin that had a certain sensitivity to chili peppers, the cry of the immortals said. Because this penguin was deceived, and after its young heart suffered a blow, it suddenly gained the ability to distinguish between chili peppers. It was able to distinguish between real and fake chili peppers based on their quality. Authentic small chili peppers have a scientific name: Old Country Mother small chili peppers. Ordinary small chili peppers of inferior quality have a scientific name: Old Country Mother small chili peppers. And this penguin's ability is to clearly distinguish whether a small chili pepper is an Old Country Mother or a Old Country Mother. Finally, the Old Country Mother small chili peppers that have been selected will be selected again according to the steps mentioned earlier. The best of the selections will be made into a limited edition. Those that aren't selected will be made into ordinary Laogang Goose chili sauce. Interesting. Wang Ming's lips curled up. He picked up his plate and took a bite of Cry of the Immortals' special dish with his chopsticks. Then he felt a surge of heat in his body, and he actually felt comfortable all over. It tasted pretty good. His eyes lit up. Wang Ling chewed quietly, his face also red. It was true that delicious food could inspire a person to feel happy. Although Wang Ling's face was expressionless, it wasn't hard to tell from his expression that he was feeling happy at that moment. This was the first time Wang Ming and Lotus Sun had seen Wang Ling react like this to anything other than crispy noodle snacks. It looked like this dish prepared by Cry of the Immortals had indeed struck a chord. It's great that everyone is satisfied, it's my honor. Cry of the Immortals spoke in fluent Chinese with a faint smile on his face. By the way, everyone, I just received news from Jiudaohe High School. Because of the exchange program, you will be able to experience life at this high school for the next week. So when in Rome, do as the Romans do, and give yourselves local names? Local names? Surprisingly, Wang Ling seemed to have been prepared for this. He didn't even think about it. Without hesitation, he directly wrote his name in the air on the ground. Wang Holang. Chapter 1506. Wang Holang didn't sound like a native name of Sun Island at all. But after thinking it over carefully, Cry of Immortals felt that it was actually very flavorful. Because you didn't necessarily have to call someone by their full name. As long as you removed the surname and added another word, you would immediately get the flavor. For example, Holang-san, Holang-chan, and so on. Holang-san, I think it's a good name, and it's very catchy. Cry of Immortals sighed. What about the rest of you? Rong-chan, Xiao-er-chan? Everyone. Jiudao High School was founded by the Jiugong family, and was very well known on Sun Island. It enrolled students from all walks of life, and wasn't specifically aimed at aristocrats. Lotus Sun had come to this exchange activity to help Jiugong Ryoko. But in fact, it was a rare opportunity for cultivators of the same age in the country to clear their names. Because of different cultural environments and educational backgrounds, the quality of cultivators in different countries was in fact different. As a famous school on Sun Island, Jiudao High School's students were mostly at the late foundation establishment stage. Some had even broken through to the golden core stage in high school. This resulted in a xenophobic phenomenon. The students of Judeo would have a sense of superiority when facing foreign students. Therefore, Cry of Immortals had always been worried that there would be some school violence during the exchange activity. The 3 people from number 60 high school were all distinguished guests of the Jiugong family, and were friends whom Jiugong Ryoko had mentioned to him in advance. Because of this, Cry of Immortals had been extremely cautious about the 3 of them entering the school. Even the idea of local names had been a clever idea on Cry of Immortals' part. He felt that if the 3 of them had local names, it might be easier for the children at school to accept them. I have a question. At the top of the mountain, Cry of Immortals took a sip of hot tea and looked at Lotus Sun and the others. What would you like to ask, Mr. Cry of Immortals? To Cry of Immortals' surprise, Lotus Sun actually spoke directly to him in the local language of Sun Island. It didn't sound lame at all, nor did it carry any accent. It was very authentic. Rong-chan actually knows our Sun Island language? Cry of Immortals was astonished. It's not that hard to learn. Lotus Sun smiled. I was once appointed by my clan to study here. After all, just the girl's visa alone had the entry stamps of hundreds of countries, and Lotus Sun's mastery of languages was actually quite abundant. She can speak no less than dozens of different languages. Rong-chan is amazing. Luminous Immortal Harmony smiled bitterly in his heart. He finally knew why Ryoko Kuya had always regarded the young lady in front of him as an opponent. Actually, what I am asking is not an important question. I just want to ask the 3 of you, are you nervous? At this time, Luminous Immortal Harmony continued. Wang Ling. On the other side, after exchanging looks, Lotus Sun, Wang Ming and Jiayin couldn't help wanting to laugh. Why should I be nervous? Lotus Sun said with a smile on her face. Putting aside the fact that Lotus Sun now had Mysterious C's power, even if Mysterious C hadn't fused with the Heavenly Tao Magic Cube, she still had enough confidence to face everything that was about to happen. It was just cultivation. Who wasn't a genius boy or girl? As for Wang Ling, at this thought, Lotus Sun couldn't help looking at him. The youngster's tranquil face was as calm as an ancient well, as if he didn't care about the people in Nine Paths High at all. It was very obvious. The word genius could no longer describe the youngster in front of her. Classmate Wang Ling was forever a god. Nine Paths High, Wang Ling, Lotus Sun, and Wang Ming, who had gone by the alias Wang Shower. Monk Golden Lamp quickly communicated with the headmaster of Nine Paths High about their enrollment as exchange students, and they quickly entered Nine Paths High's temporary student registry. This meant that Wang Ling and the other two had already obtained temporary student status at Nine Paths High. They had become a member of the school. The news spread very quickly. Nine Paths High and the student union also attached great importance to this matter. I never thought that what would come would still come. That terrible woman back then. In the office of Nine Paths High and the student union, a very distinctive golden-haired youngster cupped his chin in his hands. He sat in the president's seat with a solemn expression. His name was Akano Usagi, and people gave him the nickname, President Usagi. Familiar people would also directly call him Usagi. It wasn't that he had deliberately dyed his hair blonde, but that it was natural because of the attribute of his spirit root. Many years ago, Akano Usagi had actually met Lotus Sun face to face. At that time, he had been beaten by Lotus Sun in every aspect. He had been beaten black and blue. But Akano Usagi had never expected that the opportunity to wash away his shame would actually come right in front of him. He saw the information that the headmaster's office had sent to the student union's database, and after checking Lotus Sun's information, he couldn't help feeling relieved. Lotus Sun, you didn't expect this, did you? I'm already an early golden core expert. You're actually at the foundation establishment stage. What are you going to use to fight me? The excitement in Akano Usagi's heart was self-evident. Alu's wish for so many years is finally going to come true. At that moment, a short-haired girl with freckles on her face said, "By the way, doesn't Alu find it strange?" Her nickname was Sparrow, and she was the vice president of the student union, as well as someone who was closer to Akano Usagi. What's strange about it? Yoshiko has already been gone for so long. Why did these people from number 60 High choose this time to come? Sparrow said, the Kugong family and Huagua Water Curtain Group are competitors, and our Jiudao was built by the Kugong family. They're clearly competitors, but Rong-chan actually chose this time to come. I feel like there's a conspiracy behind all this. You're thinking too much. They're all at the foundation establishment stage. How could they have such big thoughts? Akano Usagi frowned. That was what he said, but after listening to Sparrow's analysis, he felt that it made some sense. After the impromptu meeting about the exchange students was over, Akano Usagi thought of his aunt in the Kugong family. She was the favored sixth wife of the Kugong family, Starlight Kugong. He called her. Akano Usagi's attitude was unusually humble. Hello, Aunt. Yes, I'm Chives. No. I wasn't cut today. Aunt is joking again. It's like this, and I have 3 exchange students on my side that you might be interested in. Yes, it's Lotus Sun, and 2 others with the surname Wang. One is called Wang Shower, and the other is called Wang Holang. On the other end of the line, Starlight Kugong's expression instantly darkened, and his voice instantly sank. Alu, say that again. Chapter 1507. Akano Usagi didn't expect that his aunt, who had always been cold and calm, would have such a big reaction to the name Queen Rashiro. He didn't know if it was an illusion. He could even sense the fear and uneasiness in his aunt's voice. That shouldn't be the case. These were just students from number 60 high school in Huaxiao Nation. He was just a weak foundation establishment stage rookie. How could Aunt be afraid of these foundation establishment cultivators? The name Aquino was a name that shook the entire Sun Island, and the Star Takers under the Aquino family was an even more powerful and terrifying force on the island. Therefore, Akano Kiyoshi Sasaki felt that he was thinking too much. His aunt was so awesome that there was no need for him to be afraid of her. If someone had to be afraid, it should be others who were afraid of his aunt. After a moment of silence, Akano Kiyoshi Sasaki heard Kurigaku's words. You have to take good care of these people, understand? 9 Palace Star Hui said. Got it, Auntie. Same old rules, sunken well, right? What well? It's literally what it means. Jiu Gongxing Hui explained. Ah. Do you really want me to take good care of them? Leek Sasaki was a little displeased. Given the current situation, even the slightest movement would alert the other party. Hoshikuga knew Chikisaki's temper. Back then, between Chikisaki and Miss Sun, there was a conflict. Actually, there was a grudge between them. It was very likely that he would lose control of his impulse and do something stupid. That kind of behavior was no different from alerting the enemy. Moreover, he couldn't face it head-on right now. This Wang Lang was the ghost called Baklang. As such, Jiu Gongxing Hui decided to find an opportunity to personally investigate. Could it be a human or a ghost? Their auras were completely different. She had the hair demon spirit in her body, so she could easily distinguish the difference between humans and ghosts. I know the grudge between you and Miss Sun, but they are still guests of our Jiugong family. My foundation in the Jiugong family is not stable yet. If you make a move, won't you make things difficult for me as your aunt? Jiu Gongxing Hui explained earnestly. You won't lose out if you listen to aunt. Sometimes what you see is only the second level, and you think that I'm only on the first level, but in reality, I'm on the 5th level. These words sounded like a 1,000-layer cake. Akano Usagi was stunned immediately, and soon scratched his golden hair foolishly. Aunt is knowledgeable, you are right. Don't worry, aunt, I won't act rashly. Very good. Jiu Gongxing Hui nodded in satisfaction. Auntie will reward you later. Ah. Is it that reward? You miss Asian, don't you? Jiu Gongxing Hui said calmly. Don't worry, I'll make her crawl out of the TV tonight to find you. Really? Aunt. It's true. Also, you can do whatever you want. The call was cut off, and Jiu Gongxing Hui frowned. She was using a high-quality hair growth potion to drip on the bald spot on the top of her head. This expensive hair growth potion was sold by the drop. A drop was priced at 100,000 yuan, and it belonged to the type that had immediate effects. It could make hair grow out in an instant. 9 Palace Star Brilliance filled a large bottle, wrapped it in a black envelope, and dripped dozens of drops in a row. The bald spot was still empty, without a single strand of hair. Serious injury effect? It was only then that she realized that the bald part of her body could not grow back. Even pulling out hair had a serious injury effect. It was ridiculous. It seems that it's impossible to recover. Jiu Gongxing Hui sighed. She coiled her hair up again, made a beautiful bun, and then fixed it with a few beautiful jade hairpins. This was the only way to naturally block the bald spot on the top of her head without looking too fake. After all, if she wore a wig, there was a risk of it being blown off by the wind. In order to prevent the ghost called Holang from making another move, Jiu Gongxing Hui had moved all the smooth objects with the mirror refraction effect out of the room. Mirrors, all kinds of cosmetic bottles, glass lamps, and so on. Do you think that Holang is related to the ghost called Holang? At this time, the demon spirit's voice sounded in Jiu Gongxing Hui's mind. It's just my sixth sense at the moment. Jiu Gongxing Hui frowned. I actually don't believe that there can be such a coincidence in the world. But whether it's true or not, we'll know once we take a look. If he's a ghost, I can tell at a glance. Mo Ling said confidently. For safety's sake, just take a look from a distance. At this moment, Jiu Gongxing Hui's eyes dimmed. A woman's sixth sense had always been a terrifying existence. She hoped that this was just a coincidence. If that Wang Lang was a ghost, then it would be too terrifying. Should we find someone to test it first? You mean Jiu Dao and the girl inside? Jiu Gongxing Hui thought for a while and nodded. All right. The girl in the mouth of one person, and one ghost was actually a girl who was extremely autistic because of school violence. She wasn't a complete ghost yet. But in Mo Ling's view, this girl was an extremely talented existence. She had the potential to develop into a top-grade ghost in the future. The name Holang was obviously changed later. Jiu Gongxing Hui judged that this should be Ming of Brilliance Harmony's idea. The xenophobia in Jiu Dao was very serious. Changing her name and taking a slightly more local title might make it easier for her to quickly integrate into the school life. No matter what the other party's background was. No matter whether the other party planned to live in the internal residence arranged by the Jiugong family, or in the student dormitories of Jiu Dao and high school. As long as they were on this Sun Island, in Jiugongxing Hui's view, this group of people were like pieces of meat in a 1,000-layer cake. Lotus Sun was fine. Wang Holing was fine. No matter what floor he was on, he wouldn't be able to escape. The people from number 60 high were distinguished guests from afar. According to Jiudao's rules, they should have held a special welcoming ceremony. Jiudao's student union was responsible for this welcoming ceremony. Akano Shiki had planned to take advantage of this welcoming ceremony to meet Lotus Sunday. But what he never expected was that this eldest Miss Sun, who had always liked to stand out, would actually take the initiative to ask Jiudao and high school's higher-ups to simplify the ceremony. He felt that Lotus Sun seemed to have changed a little. For some reason, she had started to keep a low profile. In fact, this was a choice he had made entirely out of consideration for himself. A new school, a new environment, and all kinds of new classmates. Lotus Sun felt that it would probably be hard for him to accept it for a while. It was silent in the car on the way to Jiudao and high school. Wang Ming and Lotus Sun were communicating via text message. "I never thought that Miss Rong would actually choose to do this," Wang Ming texted. "If it's done simply, classmate Wang Ling might feel a little more comfortable. It's fine if you listen to me. Also, I've recently realized that there are benefits to being low-key." Lotus Sun replied with a smile. Also, she realized. It seemed that she liked Wang Ling more than she had imagined. Chapter 1508. The autistic girl who Jiugongxing Huai and Devil Spirit regarded as a ghost potential stock. It was Jiudawa High School's current student Hinoko Dai. Sun Island wasn't very big, and it was impossible to gather 100,000 ghost soldiers on the island by relying on ordinary methods to capture ghosts. Hence, after Jiudao Gongxing Huai and Devil Spirit worked together, she would also look for a lot of human potential stocks like this. A lot of people might have been forced by their environment, or because of their family or work, after being denied love, ostracized, and subjected to all kinds of mental violence, they gradually developed an antisocial personality. This type of personality was exactly what Jiudao Gongxing Huai and Devil Spirit needed. Because humans with this type of personality tended to be more easily corrupted, and because of their strong resentment, they would develop a strong, vengeful mentality after death. But there were a variety of factors that led to the formation of ghosts, and strong resentment didn't necessarily mean that one could become a ghost. Strong resentment would only cause a person's soul to stay in the human world for a little longer after death. It was precisely because of this that Jiudao Gongxing Huai and Devil Spirit had formulated the artificial ghost plan. They also had this ability. They could turn these chosen children into the ghosts they wanted. Then they would be driven by them. There were two ways to transform them. One was to wait for these potential stocks to die before harvesting them. The other method was to forcibly turn them into ghosts while they were still in human form. In comparison, the ghosts formed by the second method weren't as strong as the first. But now, in order to test Wang Ling, Jiudao Gongxing Huai felt that it was necessary. The potential stocks she was cultivating were all over Sun Island. And it wasn't just Hinoko. "Are you ready?" At that moment, Jiudao Gongxing Huai closed her eyes. "Everything is ready." "Good. Get on." After skillfully switching bodies, Jiudao Gongxing Huai returned control of her body to Devil Spirit. His mysterious pupils were gradually dyed pink. Among Jiudao Gongxing Huai's coiled hair, one strand seemed to be endowed with life as it darted into the sky, forcibly turning into a ghost. She could also use Devil Spirit's ultra-long range to achieve remote control. At 10 o'clock on Tuesday, December 15th, Wang Ling and the others officially entered Class S of Jiudao He High School. This was the internal class division system of Nindao High School, which was similar to number 60 High's normal and elite classes, and was also known as the top student classes. Its specialty was that it had a small number of students, but the quality of the students was very high. Even the teachers were specially hired. Apart from the few students in Class S, he wouldn't spare any attention to teach the other classes. This was different from number 60 High School. For example, although Old Pan was the head teacher of the elite class, she also taught the children of the other classes. The nature of class classification was to better integrate students of different stages. It was not for the sake of special treatment or differentiation. If students of the same level went to class together and took exams together, the pressure wouldn't be as great. In a relaxed environment, students could better absorb knowledge. It was as if the 9th Dao High School was giving preferential treatment to a group of noble students. Although there weren't many people, Wang Ling still felt uncomfortable. Wang Ling realized that at some point, he had already become accustomed to number 60 High's teachings. Most importantly, it was his recognition of Headmaster Chen's educational philosophy. In Wang Ling's view, 9 paths and this sort of classroom grading system where strength reigned supreme weren't desirable. And this sort of environment was also the most prone to school violence. In order to let the new students adapt to the school environment as soon as possible, thanks to Golden Lamp's communication, 9 Dao he arranged the same seats for Wang Ling as for number 60 High School. The second last row by the window. Bored to death, Wang Ling listened to 9 Dao and the high school cultivation lecture. This class was about the topic of spiritual power output. This definitely wasn't new knowledge to Wang Ling. He didn't know if Jiu Dao had arranged this course on purpose, but during the class segment, everyone was given an energy ball that could measure the output of spiritual power. Including Wang Ling and the others, there were a total of 15 students. When the energy balls were sent to everyone's hands, almost immediately, the 9 Dao students and the local students in the class turned their gazes to the three of them. Ho Langsang, I heard that you're all very outstanding students at number 60 High School. Sitting in front of Wang Ling was a student with an elitist face. He was thin and liked to poke his glasses with his middle finger at every turn. He turned his head to look at Wang Ling, the corners of his lips curling up slightly. Wearing 9 Dao He's custom-made suit, he exuded an aristocratic aura. Compared with number 60 High School's blue essence sportswear, he seemed especially gorgeous. In Wang Ling's eyes, the boy in front of him was like a gorgeous, noble peacock with an insufferably arrogant attitude. Wang Ling carefully held the energy ball. It was like a hot potato in his hands, and he didn't know what to do. If he accidentally crushed it and it exploded, he would probably have to pay for it, right? He also had to leave some money for Anwan to buy a gift. But if he wasn't careful and increased the output, it might also explode on the spot. And this energy ball was made of a special kind of crystal. If it exploded here, the crystal fragments that flew out would hurt innocent people. Thus, Wang Ling stared at the energy ball in his hand, feeling conflicted. At that moment, Peacock Man in front of him smiled again. Ho Langsang, you look very nervous. Wang Ling, don't be so nervous. Just treat this place as if it's your own home. Ah, that's right, I forgot, after talking for so long. Do you not understand our native language at all? Peacock Man sounded like he was comforting Wang Ling, but he was actually being sarcastic. He was about to switch to Mandarin to communicate with Wang Ling. On the side, Lotus Sun couldn't take it anymore. I didn't expect Sun Island's local education to be at this level. What a disappointment. It was very standard Sun Island language. This immediately attracted the attention of everyone in Class S. What do you mean? Peacock Man was unconvinced, and was astonished by Lotus Sun's fluent Mandarin. Classmate Wang Ling, oh no, Ho Langsang. He's actually always been stronger than me, Lotus Sun continued. But I heard that Ho Langsang is just a mascot in your school. Peacock Man spread his hands and smiled at Lotus Sunday. You should know that anyone in Class S can use their own spirit power to crush this energy ball in front of you. Is that so? Lotus Sun smiled, but there was a dagger hidden behind her smile. Then I can do it alone. As she said this, she stretched out her hand and lightly tapped the energy ball in front of the table. An azure blue ripple spread out from her fingertips. Bang 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 bang. There was the sound of glass shattering in Class S. The local students of 9 Paths and high school were all dumbfounded. They had never imagined that the young girl's strength would actually be so powerful, to be able to shatter all the energy balls with just her own strength. Wang Ming folded his arms and watched the show alone at the back. He was actually a little touched. Nowadays, there weren't many girls who could be so considerate. P.S. For more news, follow the official account. Lord Ku Xianjun. Chapter 1509. The average strength of Jiudao in Class S was peak late foundation establishment. Excluding Wang Ling's group of three of the 12 students had already reached the golden core stage in grade 1. This overall level of combat strength was indeed above number 60 highs. Of course, this was in fact based on the standard of Wang Ling, Lotus Sun, Jin Yuan, Gu Xuanji, Fang Xing, Wang Zhen, Lu Qingyi and the other core members of Battle Sect. If the core members of Battle Sect who had snuck into number 60 high were included, any grade 1 class in number 60 high would probably be ranked first in the world. Even if the combat strength of all the high schools in the world circled the Earth 3 times, they still might not be able to match up to 1/1000th of number 60 high's elite class. It sounded a little exaggerated, but it was the truth. Wang Ling himself hadn't expected Lotus Sun to choose this moment to make a move when he was so conflicted, although her words seemed to provoke hatred. But they had indeed solved his urgent problem. In the first row of the classroom, Akano Leaksaki looked at the energy ball fragments in his hand, unable to calm down for a long time. It was very obvious that an ordinary foundation establishment cultivator wouldn't have been able to shatter the energy ball fragments in his hand. It was very clear that an ordinary foundation establishment cultivator wouldn't have been able to shatter an entire class's energy ball with just the fluctuations of spirit power she had released. Even Leaksaki himself couldn't have done this. Sure enough, this terrifying woman was still as difficult to deal with as she had been back then. As for the late foundation establishment stage, shown on the student records, it was probably also a facade. He judged that Lotus Sun's combat strength was at the late golden core stage at the very least. A grade 1 student. She was actually at the late golden core stage. Leaksaki was both afraid and terrified. Fortunately, he had listened to his aunt's words and hadn't directly made a move on this eldest Mississippi. This woman was indeed terrifying. He had thought that after so many years of hard work and hard cultivation, he would finally be able to break away from this terrifying woman. But it turned out that no matter how hard he tried, he still couldn't catch up to her. In fact, putting aside her combat strength, Lotus Sun's combat strength wasn't inferior to Leaksaki's at all. Although the girl's strength was still at the peak late foundation establishment stage, this was actually the result of her forcefully suppressing her realm with many purification reagents. If a cultivator wanted to raise their realm, the concentration of their spirit root had to reach a certain level before they could break through. The so-called washing reagent was, in fact, a kind of diluent of high concentration. It could develop a person's potential to the greatest extent. Advancing when one's potential was developed to the extreme would allow one to go further in the future. So according to the normal rate of cultivation, she would have broken through to the golden core stage long ago. Therefore, from the very beginning, the girl did not take the 9 paths and his group of arrogant and conceited people seriously. Her gaze remained cautious and cautious. He was afraid that these people would deliberately pick on Wang Ling. It wasn't because he was afraid of Wang Ling. He was mainly worried that those troublemakers might be in life-threatening danger. It was so easy to find fault with him. If he lost his life while searching, wouldn't that be a huge loss? At lunchtime, Wang Ling and the others arrived at Jideo's canteen. Just like the classrooms, Jideo's cafeteria also adopted a grading system. And the class division is clear. The lowest class was Class D. The dining area was divided into cold wooden seats that looked a little hard. Class C's treatment was slightly better. There was even a layer of soft silicone cushion on the wooden seats. Class B's leather chair, Class A's boss chair. Of course, the one with the best treatment was still Class S's automatic massage sofa. Wang Ling was secretly astonished at this distinction. It was a good thing that Lotus Sun was at the forefront. At that moment, Wang Ling felt that the girl was like a Valkyrie protecting her children, standing at the forefront with an astonishing aura. For a moment, a lot of people didn't dare approach her. Wang Ming and Wang Ling both noticed. This seemed to be another kind of Lotus Sun domain. It actually has the ability to adapt to local conditions? Wang Ming laughed in his heart. He could see that the power of the girl's Lotus Sun domain had this ability. It would switch to different modes depending on the environment. For example, in a low-risk area like number 59 high school, the Lotus Sun domain took the route of being close to the people and could slowly turn nearby people into fans. After all, number 59 high school was still in the country. It was true that the students of number 59 high school usually didn't study together, but when it came to a competition, they would always bump into each other. Thus, the Lotus Sun domain, which took the route of being close to the people, was in fact also paving the way for itself. But Judeo's situation was different from that of number 59 high school. This was a foreign country, and they had come as exchange students, so it would be hard for them to run into each other in the future. Thus, there was no need to take the route of being close to the people. Of course, the main thing was that Lotus Sun felt that from the moment Wang Ling entered Judeo High School, the girls there had been sneaking glances at him. This made the girl instinctively unhappy. She immediately regarded Judeo as a hostile danger zone. Since it was a danger zone, the close to the people route of Lotus Sun domain was instantly switched to the suppressive aura route. Holding her dinner plate, she stood at the very front, and everyone who looked at her was clearly fearful. Beautiful girls in puberty are really scary. Wang Ming couldn't help muttering with a bitter smile as he followed behind her. This was also the first time he had seen Lotus Sun look as if someone owed her hundreds of millions of yuan. Her protectiveness was a little too obvious, but it didn't matter, because he saw that the expression on Wang Ling's face was a lot calmer than he had imagined. Wang Ming knew all too well. His little brother Wang Ling was already used to all kinds of feelings of discomfort when he was in a completely unfamiliar foreign environment. This could be considered a kind of social phobia that had accumulated at a young age. Every time he was in a new environment, his face would turn pale for a long time before he could come back to his senses. The most painful time that Wang Ming could remember was when he was in junior high. Because of the new environment, Wang Ling's face had turned white. This had actually caused quite a number of senior middle school girls to take a fancy to him. They said that among the new students, there was a cute junior brother with a face as white as jade. What if *** king white as jade? Look at how that group of wolf-like people had scared the kid. It wasn't until Wang Ling entered number 60 high school that his social phobia eased up a lot. Now, it wasn't as serious as before, but there were times when there were too many strangers around him, and he still wasn't used to it. Hence, Wang Minglan. Wang Ling's calmness now was all thanks to Lotus Sunday. Following Lotus Sun's lead, the three of them found a place to sit in a corner, and Wang Ling directly sat on the sofa at the very end. Wang Ming sat directly next to Wang Ling. Jiayin was very cooperative, and directly sat opposite Wang Ming. The two of them sat like that on purpose. Because this way, Lotus Sun could only sit opposite Wang Ling. A teenager and a girl in puberty eating face to face was also a simple and down-to-earth kind of romance. Chapter 15:10. Thus, during the meal, Lotus Sun once again had the feeling that everything had been arranged for her. In a secret corner surrounded by familiar people, this sense of reassurance undoubtedly alleviated his social phobia by a lot. Jiudao Wahai's food was excellent, and it was all cultivator food. In order to ensure each student's nutrition, everyone in Jiudao Wahai was the same when it came to food. There was no difference in treatment. The main ingredient for lunch today was black beef cubes, which were said to be spirit cattle raised on the ranch behind Jiudao Wahai. They had grown up on concentrated feed, and the meat was delicious. Wang Ling had never seen a school specially set up several farms to provide food for their lunches, as expected of one of the most famous schools on Sun Island. Wang Ling drank his fish broth and couldn't help sighing with emotion in his heart. He didn't know that his current seat was actually Akino Usagi's special one. Unfortunately, because Jiogong's star brilliance had warned Chim Usagi in advance not to act rashly, Akino Usagi could only suppress his anger and sit on the other side as he sullenly chewed the beef cubes in his mouth. It was as if he was gnawing on Wang Ling's flesh. He knew that his attitude was very abnormal. Logically speaking, those who had come from afar were guests. In any case, this bunch of people from number 60 high would only be staying for a few days. There was indeed no need for him to be angry. As the president of the student union, he should show his tolerance and magnanimity. But he didn't know why. Chim Usagi noticed that Lotus Sun's gaze had been fixed on that pretty boy called Wang Holang. The anger in his heart was like an old blood clot in his heart. and Chim found it increasingly difficult to breathe. Brother Chim, if you really like lotus sauce that much, then hurry up and find a chance to confess. It's only a few days, the peacock man who had picked on Wang Ling in class earlier suddenly said at that moment. Chim was instantly incoherent. Who likes her? How could I like that scary woman? Although he said that, the expression on his face completely betrayed him. His burning face was just like the medium-well beef cubes on the plate, with a fresh red tint to it. It's too obvious, President. At that moment, the short-haired vice president of the student union with the code name Sparrow spoke. Chive Sasaki. She expressionlessly enjoyed the delicacies on the plate and faintly said, "Since you like it so much, then you should seize the opportunity to make a move. Do you want me to prepare the knockout drug in room card? Your way of thinking is very dangerous. I'm a gentleman." The corner of Leek Sasaki's mouth twitched. He had always felt that his vice president, Sparrow, was a black-bellied woman. This guy could always say some scary things calmly. He was probably the kind of person who would turn black when he was cut open. But to be honest, Peacock Man and Sparrow's few words had indeed revealed Leek Sasaki's true troubles. He had originally thought that his attitude towards Lotus Sun should be fear. It was also because of this fear that he worked so hard. He cultivated day and night, learning all kinds of cultivation theories and knowledge. All of this was so that the next time they met, he would be able to appear in front of the girl with a better posture. What Chive Sasaki didn't expect was that the fear he understood was actually love. So this is the feeling of liking someone. Chive Sasaki's face turned slightly red as he sighed inwardly. Looking in Lotus Sun's direction, he propped his face on one hand and used his knife and fork to fiddle with the dice-like pieces of beef on the plate. Only now did he suddenly understand why he had found that classmate, Wang Lang, so displeasing to the eye. It turned out that it was all because of jealousy. Can you guys do me a favor? At this moment, Chive Sasaki looked at Peacock Man and Sparrow and asked, "Have you finally made up your mind, President?" Sparrow sneered. "I still have a lot of drugs." "I told you, I'm not asking you to drug her. Can't you think more normally and not so dark?" Chive Sasaki was speechless. "If it's not to drug her, then what else can it be?" Sparrow sighed. "By the way, where did you get so many drugs?" Even Peacock Man was a little curious now. "They were all given to me by others in the past. They wanted to sleep with me. Then I found the bottle and confiscated it," Sparrow said calmly. The Sparrow said calmly, "So I received a lot of strange medicines of all colors." "Sleep with you?" Both Chive Sasaki and Peacock Man were shocked. They were more familiar with Sparrow, so they wouldn't have such thoughts. But in fact, Sparrow's facial features were indeed exquisite, and the freckles on her face were actually harmless. She just needed some simple makeup to cover them up, and she would be a standard beauty. Simply put, after makeup, Sparrow was indeed the small and cute type. If it wasn't for the fact that Sparrow was black when she was cut open, and that she looked cute but was extremely black-bellied on the inside, Chive Sasaki and Peacock Man couldn't guarantee that they wouldn't have such evil thoughts. "Is it that strange? I'm quite cute," Sparrow chuckled. Chive Sasaki was non-committal. "Then, what happened to those who wanted to sleep with you?" Sparrow thought for a moment and concluded, "I slept with the good-looking ones. I legated the unattractive ones." When Chive Sasaki and Peacock Man heard this, they instantly felt uncomfortable. The conversation ended. Chive Sasaki quickly made his request. "Can you think of a way to send that Hirai Langsan away for me? I want to eat with Miss Lotus Sun." He actually didn't have any evil intentions. It was purely because he wanted to have a meal with Lotus Sunday. Because of his jealousy, his attitude toward Wang Ling was a little unfriendly. But Chive Sasaki actually didn't want to hurt anyone. For one thing, he now had a clear understanding of his feelings and attitude toward Lotus Sunday. For another, it was also because of his previous communication with Nine Palace Starlight that Chive Sasaki wouldn't act rashly. "Send them away?" Peacock Man frowned. "It won't be easy to send them away from that position. There are people blocking the entrance. I think it's better to drug it. I think laxatives will do." Sparrow thought for a moment and said, "Wouldn't laxatives be too light?" Wouldn't it be better if it's food poisoning directly? Let them stay in the hospital for a few days. Chive Sasaki's heart thumped when he heard this, and he wiped the sweat off his face. By the way, can you use a more normal method? A more normal method. This person was so troublesome. Sparrow thought in his heart, and couldn't help sighing. Then we can only use that. Peacock Man immediately understood what Sparrow was saying. You mean that? Sparrow, yes that. Chive Sasaki. So who on earth was this? Sparrow. President. Do you remember that our school's principal summoned an internet celebrity scientist a while ago? Oh, you mean that Master Shochong. Chive Sasaki remembered. That's right. Sparrow nodded. In fact, Master Shochong specially arranged a gift for our student union before he left. He modified all the electric massage sofas in the cafeteria. Why didn't I know? Chive Sasaki was surprised. President is busy with official business. Is there a need to know about this? Sparrow sneered. But I still haven't found a suitable opportunity to test the gift Master Shochong left behind. It won't be very dangerous, right? No, Sparrow said calmly. It's said that the modified massage sofas have the ability to defend against overbearing seats. Don't worry, President. He just modified the massage head and strength regulation function. The massage device will automatically activate later. Langsan is only at the foundation establishment stage, so he definitely won't be able to withstand that kind of strength. As long as he gets up, won't President's opportunity come? At first glance, this method didn't seem to be a problem. At the very least, it was a lot more reliable than one-sided poisoning. But because they hadn't done any concrete experiments on the modified massage chairs before, there was no way to know the exact effect. No one here could say for sure. Then they might as well give it a try first. Thus, Chive Sasaki nodded and agreed to Sparrow's proposal. On the other side, Wang Ling was resting in his seat when he suddenly felt the massage sofa under him move. Without any warning, the massage sofa started to fall back. Wang Ming could vaguely hear the sound of an electric drill coming from the massage sofa. But this sound was very faint. If he was a little further away, it would actually be very hard to hear clearly. Did someone tamper with it? Wang Ming instantly guessed what on earth was going on. He used his brainwaves to search the entire cafeteria. By capturing the micro-expressions on everyone's faces, he could easily determine who on earth had done it. Very quickly, he directly locked onto the Chive Sasaki trio. Although their gazes didn't directly meet Wang Ling's, they still couldn't escape Wang Ming's gaze. They actually dared to make a move on Lingzi. These three little things have guts. The corners of Wang Ming's lips curled up slightly. In the end, high school students were still high school students. In Wang Ming's eyes, this kind of underhanded method was actually a little childish. Furthermore, from a technical point of view, Wang Ming judged that these modified massage sofas probably hadn't come from the Chive Sasaki trio. After using Wang Ling 3's mechanical eye to scan the massage chair, Wang Ling's expression changed. From the interior configuration and design of the massage chairs, Wang Ming felt that it was the work of that online celebrity scientist Shochong. After a fierce analysis, Wang Ming wanted to retaliate, but he didn't feel any discomfort from Wang Ling, so he wasn't in a hurry to make a move. What do you think, Ling Ling? Is there anything you don't lose? Wang Ming asked softly. No. Wang Ling closed his eyes and replied telepathically. As for the massage sofa which had suddenly been activated, although Wang Ling was astonished in his heart, his expression was still very calm. Master Shochong had modified the massage sofa, and the massage head had been changed into an electric drill design. Furthermore, the strength of the massage had also been greatly enhanced. There were very few people below the nascent soul stage who could lie on this modified massage sofa for more than 10 seconds. On the other side, Chive Sasaki was already prepared for Wang Ling to get up on his own. But he didn't know why. He observed this scene from a distance. He somehow felt that Wang Ling was enjoying himself. Is this going to work or not? Why do I feel like Lang-san is enjoying himself? The corners of Chive Sasaki's eyes twitched. But Sparrow didn't quite understand this situation. It shouldn't be like this. This is already the maximum. According to Master Shochong, a foundation establishment cultivator, wouldn't be able to last more than a few seconds under this kind of strength before standing up. Wang Ling was indeed enjoying himself. Although the effect of this massage sofa actually looked ordinary to Wang Ling, he felt that it wasn't too bad. After all, there weren't many massage sofas nowadays that could make Wang Ling feel anything. Because it was more strenuous for Wang Ling, ordinary mechanical massage equipment had almost no effect on him. But Shoucheng's sofa gave Wang Ling a slight sense of the massage head's existence. It was very weak, but at least it could relax his muscles. Wang Ling knew that someone was making a move on him. But this kind of method could still be considered polite. So he wasn't unhappy. He closed his eyes in passing and lay down on the massage sofa to take a nap. Half an hour later, the group from number 60 high school left. Chive Sasaki immediately looked like he was scratching his head. How could this be? Didn't you say that this massage chair is very strong? I don't know, but that's what Master Shoucheng said. Sparrow was very innocent. If you don't believe me, you can try it. I'll try it. Flustered and exasperated, Chive Sasaki walked over and lay down where Wang Ling had just been. 3 seconds later, there was a miserable scream. Ah! Chive Sasaki bounced up from the massage sofa with a pained expression. Then he fell face first onto the ground. His entire body fell heavily to the ground with a plop. The moment the massage head touched his body, that kind of acute pain was already hard to describe. It was like 100,000 electric drills were pointed at his back, and the electric poison dragon drill was madly firing at that shameless operator called Kushwan to write later. Chive Sasaki was carried into the infirmary by Sparrow and Peacock Man with his butt in the air. The preliminary examination showed that he had sprained his waist muscles and had a slight bone fracture. This wasn't a particularly serious injury for a cultivator, but Chive Sasaki felt like he was going to die if he lay there for a few more seconds. So it hurts that much. That Holang Sang actually withstood it, how incredible. Sparrow sighed. It seems that this massage sofa is indeed very strong. By the way, Peacock, do you want to try it? No. Peacock Man's heart was still fluttering with fear. Thanks to Chive Sasaki's experience, he now understood how strong that modified massage sofa was. This was probably the stuff of legends. He died after trying it. Chive Sasaki, an early Golden Core cultivator, was already like this. If he, a Foundation Establishment cultivator, were to lie down there, he would directly explode into a mountain of orange blossoms. That night, Wang Ling and the others had originally planned to return to the residence that the Kagaka family had arranged for them. But Nine Paths in high school had organized a freshman welcoming party, and at the strong suggestion of Brilliant's Immortal Harmony, they still settled down in the dormitory that Nine Paths in high school had arranged for them. A freshman welcoming party wasn't an occasion for Wang Ling, so he chose to stay in the dormitory alone. In any case, there were 3 of them, and it was fine as long as Lotus Sun and Wang Ming attended as representatives. Wang Ling didn't have to go to begin with. Don't worry, classmate Wang Ling, just leave it to me and Brother Air. Remember to close the doors and windows, and let me know if other girls bother you. Lotus Sun reminded him before they left. Wang Ming watched from a distance, stifling his laughter. No matter how he looked at it, it felt like a couple saying goodbye. But as for whether Wang Ling would be disturbed by other girls, in fact, Lotus Sun had already made arrangements. Jia Yin's dormitory window faced Wang Ling's dormitory door in the opposite direction of the female dormitory building. If a sneaky girl passed by Wang Ling's door, Jia Yin would notice it right away. But to be honest, she felt that Lotus Sun was overthinking things. Even if a girl came looking for Wang Ling, given Wang Ling's willpower, he would never make that kind of mistake. For a sexually apathetic and abstinent straight man like Blockhead, trying to play tricks on this, the success rate was 0%. When Wang Ling opened his eyes at around 7 o'clock in the evening, he saw a figure in front of him. It was none other than Golden Lamp Monk. He didn't come in through the front door, but directly appeared in front of Wang Ling using the distance reduction spell. Greetings, Ling Zhenren. Golden Lamp Monk put his palms together. Wearing number 60 high school's uniform, he still looked as comical as before. Zhenren, I'm sure you've already noticed that there are half-ghosts in this school. Wang Ling nodded. The half-ghost the monk was talking about was actually a technical term. It meant that a ghost, that wasn't a complete body, and hadn't completely turned into a ghost, but had the possibility of becoming one. From the moment they entered Nine Paths in high school, Wang Ling and Golden Lamp Monk were acutely aware of how unusual this Nine Paths in high school was, because they had already probed the Nine Palace Star Brilliance. Wang Ling already had a general understanding of how Nine Palace Star Brilliance and the demon spirit in its body worked. The other party used hair strands to control ghosts remotely. This ability was very frightening. Furthermore, almost every strand of hair was bound to a ghost. But where did such a large number of ghosts come from? At that time, Wang Ling had also been pondering this question. Now he had found the answer to this question. If he used these half-ghosts to cultivate ghosts, it would be very easy. Throughout Nine Paths in high school, there were a lot of students whose minds were already distorted because of the strong xenophobia, academic pressure and school violence. Among these students, some had already become half-ghosts, and some were about to become half-ghosts. They all had the potential to become ghosts. Hence, for Nine Palace Star Brilliance and the demon spirit, the whole of Nine Paths in high school was their ghost farm. After discovering this secret, the first thing Golden Lamp Monk did was to discuss it with Wang Ling. He didn't act rashly right away. I wanted to directly use the righteous Buddha light to save those students who haven't yet become ghosts. However, doing so may alert the enemy, Monk Golden Lamp said. By doing so, they could indeed save a lot of students. But in fact, they were also helping Nine Palace Star Brilliance destroy the evidence. Wang Ling had the ability to foil Nine Palace Star Brilliance's plan. But he was such an evil person against humanity. If he wasn't exposed in the end, he would be spurned and punished by everyone. This made Wang Ling feel uncomfortable all along. Of course, for such an evil person, even if Wang Ling crushed him to death like an ant, no one would feel sorry for him. But if possible, Wang Ling still hoped that the evil deeds of Nine Palace Star Brilliance and the Star Pluckers behind him could be exposed to the world, instead of using his boundless energy to suppress them, because then, people would never learn to reflect, and in the end would only regress. There were many ways to be a hero. 6 years ago, Audiobook had been a warrior who had raised his sword despite knowing that he was no match for the Demon King like a god of war. Like Audiobook, there were still plenty of defying ones, who charged toward the strongest without looking back, but there were still plenty of them in this world. Given the current situation, Wang Ling felt that it was more important to collect evidence of Nine Palace Star Brilliance's crimes. This actually wasn't difficult. He just needed to wait for the right time to reverse the situation. There were so many half-ghosts in the Nine Paths in high school. Since Nine Palace Star Brilliance used this place as his ghost farm, then there had to be a way to forcibly turn these half-ghosts into real ghosts. So what Wang Ling needed to do was very simple. Since you've turned a human into a ghost, why can't he just turn the human back into a ghost? For Wang Ling, this process was like mathematics. The Great Tao was the simplest, and in the end, it was nothing more than a mathematical formula. Since it was a formula, it could be reversed. After a brief telepathic exchange, the monk completely understood what Wang Ling was thinking. I fully support Ling Zhenren's decision. For the monk, following Wang Ling was always the right choice. From the moment he had entered the island, the monk had always wanted to spread the light of the righteous path across all of Sun Island. It could only be said that Nine Palace Star Brilliance's recruitment of 100,000 ghost soldiers was still too exaggerated. As a senior monk who had achieved the Tao, he was a supreme existence in Buddhism. As soon as Monk Golden Lamp entered Sun Island, he felt that there were many ghosts on the island. If it wasn't for his increased self-control, he wouldn't have been able to recognize them. Buddhists were misophobic, and the most taboo thing was to see this kind of filthy thing floating in front of them. In contrast, Wang Ling was so calm and collected. Monk Golden Lamp instantly felt the gap between his and Wang Ling's composure. As expected of Ling Zhenren, he's really calm. After the exchange, the monk sighed with emotion. He felt that he still had a lot to learn from Wang Ling. Since he didn't need to do anything now, then he would just bide his time and do as Wang Ling said. The monk had nothing else to do. He could only use the distance shrinking technique to return to the staff dormitory that Jioha Middle School had arranged for him. and hide there to quietly study function questions alone. Knowledge was power. How could ordinary people understand the charm of functions? Forcibly turning them into ghosts. Thinking of what he had just discussed with Monk Golden Lamp, Wang Ling found it a little funny. He had a rough idea of what 9 Palace Star Brilliance was capable of. There were a lot of half-ghosts here. He speculated that 9 Palace Star Brilliance used his hair to remotely manipulate these half-ghosts with potential and forcibly turn them into ghosts. This was mainly based on the negative energy that the half-ghosts gave off. Then, what would happen if he absorbed all the negative energy here? He had to admit that this seemed a little like fishing, but it was fine as long as it worked. Then Wang Ling closed his eyes slightly. For a moment, countless resentful voices poured into his mind. Ah, this question is so difficult. I don't know how to do it. Damn it, why is there so much homework today? Why do I feel like I can't finish it? Looks like I can only get up early tomorrow to copy homework. But if I copy homework, what about the exam? No, I can't read anymore. This is definitely the last one. If I keep reading, I'm going to have kidney deficiency at such a young age. I didn't bully Yezi because I like her. She's clearly that kind of person. I don't want to apologize to her. The little slut next door is fooling around again. She clearly has a boyfriend, but she's still dressed so ostentatiously. I screwed up again. I'm 2 marks away from full marks. If I don't get full marks, my life will be ruined. This damn Kushwan, he updates so slowly every day, and he's even saying that. Doesn't he have any self-awareness? He's clearly a mother fetus solo author. Why is he writing love scenes? Go fight for me. I want to see Wang Ling act pretentious. There were many voices like this. Teenagers nowadays were under a lot of pressure to study, and it was very common for them to have all kinds of mental imbalances. Especially before the college entrance examination. The last straw that broke a teenager's back might just be an exam paper, a seemingly insignificant sentence, or just a hurtful word. Therefore, in almost all schools, psychological teachers were arranged to be in charge of psychological guidance, ready to adjust the psychological problems of the children at any time. He condensed all the resentment of the teenagers in the air around him. Filled with negative energy, it turned into a black ball the size of a basketball in Wang Ling's palm. Wang Ling used the negative energy he had gathered as bait. After waiting for a while, he suddenly heard the sound of something breaking through the air behind him. Sure enough, it's here. Wang Ling was calm. He swiftly crushed the ball of negative energy in his hand, and then quickly grabbed the strand of hair that was trying to reach his head. On the other side, the moment Wang Ling grabbed Zhou Gongxing's hair again, that familiar feeling came again. Both Mo Ling and Zhou Gongxing were terrified at the same time. This familiar aura, this familiar technique. In an instant, that suffocating feeling came again. Terrified, Zhou Gongxing could not help but take a deep breath. She did not believe that Wang Lang was the ghost named Back Wave. But now, in the face of Wang Ling's direct showdown, 9 Palace Star Radiance was suddenly at a loss for what to do. Zhou Gongxing Hui. Why did you provoke him out of nowhere? The demon spirit felt wronged. My initial target was just Hikari, but I suddenly felt a huge amount of negative energy gathering in the 9 paths, and my hair was automatically attracted to it. It was obvious that it was a trap. However, due to the horror of having her hair pulled out in the morning, fortunately, Mo Ling was prepared this time. Her reaction was very fast. After determining that his hair was being pulled, he immediately used the gecko severing its tail technique and automatically gave up that hair. Was he afraid just like that? Wang Ling found it a little funny. He brushed away the strand of hair that was gradually turning white on his finger like dust. Mo Ling thought that he had escaped successfully. But in fact, the moment Wang Ling had grabbed that strand of hair just now, Wang Ling had already locked onto the frequency of the demon spirit's spirit power signal. His fishing technique just now had been to lock onto the demon spirit. And now, as long as he was within range of the 9 paths, no matter how the demon spirit changed his spirit power frequency, or how he concealed himself, it would be ineffective against Wang Ling. Wang Ling sat cross-legged in his dormitory. He closed his eyes. Countless streams of air split off from Wang Ling to form clones that were invisible to ordinary people, and then abruptly spread out in all directions. Through what had happened just now, Wang Ling had already sensed that some of the students in the 9 paths had already been forcibly turned into ghosts by the demon spirit. While he had been controlling the demon spirit's movements, he had also been thinking about how to rescue these students. And now counterattack. It had officially begun. In the girls' dormitory building in 9 Paths High School Area C, a girl named Hikari Onoko woke up after a short nap. She realized that her appearance had changed drastically. Cat-eared girl? She stared at herself in the mirror, and for a moment felt that the world had become abnormal. The cat ears on her head and the whiskers on her cheeks seemed to be telling her everything that had happened. She was turning into a cat. And it definitely wasn't because she was dreaming. If it was just a pair of cat ears on her head, Hikari Onoko might have been able to accept it. But now, she realized that her face was gradually turning into that of a cat. In addition to the whiskers, there was also a layer of light fluff. Although she liked cats very much, she still couldn't accept the fact that she had become a cat-eared girl. The main thing was that this cat-eared girl was too ugly. It wasn't 2D at all. Her skin was furry and wrinkled. It was so ugly that Hikari Onoko almost cried. When she had first entered 9 Paths High School, Hikari Onoko had still been a student in Class S. She loved animals, and especially loved kittens. She often used her pocket money to buy cat food to feed the little guys on campus. This behavior seemed to have angered those hidden perverts in Class S. They were all twisted cat abusers. They often took videos of cat abuse and sold them on the internet. Hikari Onoko's behavior of feeding stray cats had angered these cat abusers. Then, a 2-year-long school violence began. Every day in class, there were all kinds of humiliating words, erasers in her water bottles, and all kinds of additives. Even when she handed in her homework, someone would help her erase it. The scariest thing was that those cat abusers would blame all the cat abuse incidents on Hikari Onoko. Hikari Onoko's grades plummeted. She dropped from Class S to Class C. She began to become autistic and unwilling to communicate with others. She had once tried to ask for help from her teacher. The teacher told her. The people in Class S were all influential people. She would endure it if she could. She had also tried to ask for help from her parents. Her parents told her. 9 Paths High School was a famous school. Since she was studying here, she had to learn to blend in with the environment and not do things that didn't fit in with the crowd. No one really understood her. No one really understood her thoughts. Even the people who were closest to her didn't bring her any comfort. After accumulating for a long time, Hikari Onoko's spirit completely collapsed. She felt that she was living like an aimless wandering soul. If it weren't for the fact that there were still a few kittens in 9 Paths High School that needed someone to take care of, Hikari Onoko would have already chosen to end her life. As for tonight's welcome party, Hikari Onoko naturally didn't dare to attend it. She was very clear. If she went, it would be nothing more than another kind of humiliation. At this time, Hikari Onoko, who didn't know that she had been forcibly turned into a ghost, stood in front of the mirror and stared blankly at the changes that had happened to her body. Her claws seemed to have become sharper than before, and the shining sharp blades were like blades. Her scarlet eyes and barbed cattail were like a whip. With just a light wave, the wall behind her collapsed under the huge force of the tail. Have I really become a monster? Hikari Onoko didn't know what had happened to her body, and at the next moment, she felt her head becoming very painful. Countless voices were hovering in her mind. Those voices were egging her on. They wanted her to take revenge on everything that had happened to her in the past. She wanted to take revenge on those who had bullied and humiliated her. In a daze, Hikari Onoko's mind flashed back to the many pitiful kittens she had seen. These kittens had been caught by cat abusers and tortured to death with utility knives. Their fur had been plucked, they had been set on fire, and they had been electrocuted. These cat abusers had used their tyranny on these weak lives to show off their strength. Gradually, an inexplicable anger began to rise in Hikari Onoko's heart. Just when she felt like she was about to be swallowed up by hatred, an unfamiliar figure suddenly appeared in front of her. This person was none other than Wang Ling's clone. "Don't be afraid, I'm here to help you," Wang Ling's clone said. Wang Ling had originally sent these clones to reform the students who had already become ghosts. The clone represented Wang Ling's will, but their personalities were actually different. Wang Ling's clone had a very advanced AI mechanism. It could automatically judge the situation in front of it and adjust itself to be what these students who needed to be reformed wanted to see the most. And so, when Hikari Onoko saw Wang Ling's clone, she felt that the youngster in front of her was glowing like a small sun. "You are?" Hikari Onoko said hesitantly. "My name is Backwave. I'm here to help you restore your human body," Wang Ling's clone said. This was according to the clone's AI mechanism. Ever since Hikari Onoko entered Nine Paths High School, no one had ever spoken to her so gently. Thus, using the gentle route was the best way to break through. Now that things have come to this, can I really change back? Hikari Onoko cried. "Actually, you've been restraining yourself all this time, haven't you?" Wang Ling's clone smiled very naturally. But this kind of smile was almost impossible to see on the real body. "Just like when you're talking to me now. Your tears fall involuntarily. This proves that you actually don't want to become a ghost. You're a kind girl. That's not your problem. The fact that you saved those stray cats also proves that you have a kind heart. So in the future, please continue to be kind. All kind people deserve to be treated well." Hikari Onoko couldn't stop her tears anymore. Suddenly, she felt a trace of warm spirit power seep into her body from her forehead. Then, all the characteristics of her ghost transformation quickly disappeared at a speed that was visible to the naked eye. He actually did it. Hikari Onoko looked at what was happening to her body in disbelief. "It's a piece of cake." Wang Ling withdrew his hand. "Okay, my mission is accomplished. See you again," Backwave sang. Before Wang Ling's clone disappeared, Hikari Onoko suddenly summoned up her courage and called out to him. How can I repay you?" "You don't need to repay me," Wang Ling's clone replied. Wang Ling's clone replied, "Continue to exercise your goodwill. That's the best repayment." After all, Wang Ling's real body had done a lot of good things. Furthermore, he had never left his name. Hikari Onoko blushed. Because she had never been treated so gently before, Hikari Onoko couldn't tell if she was touched or liked it. She looked at the back of Wang Ling's clone and summoned up the last of her courage. Backwave sang, "HM?" When Wang Ling's clone came back to his senses, he saw a huge shadow lunging at him. Fortunately, the clone reacted quickly and directly stretched out his hand to stop Hikari Onoko's body. "Sorry, I'm not used to being too close to people." "Sorry," Backwave sang. "I was rude." Hikari Onoko's face was clearly a little disappointed. "Then, can I give you a gentle hug?" "Just a hug?" "No." This was a matter of principle. The clone's refusal was also very firm. He didn't want to give these boys/girls any illusions. So it wasn't just Hikari Onoko. Wang Ling's clone did the same for the rest of the people. It was just that everyone's situation was different. Wang Ling's clone's refusal was also different. Facing Hikari Onoko, Wang Ling's clone's refusal was more decisive. After the incident, Hikari Onoko and many of the students who had been transformed by Wang Ling's clone that night and turned back into human beings couldn't remember what Wang Ling looked like for a while. They only remembered that teenager called himself Backwave. Like a god descending to the earth, he was full of sunshine. He appeared in front of them when they needed him the most. With the world's most gentle words, he melted their bruised hearts. It was like a dream. Or rather, it was a dream. In this world, was there any boy more handsome and more considerate than Backwave sang? They regarded this memory as the most precious secret of their lives. And they would carry this secret with them. And continue to work hard to live on with all the beauty and kindness. Small theater, not related to the main plot or the short story Lotus Sun. Classmate Wang Ling, can I give you a gentle hug? Just a hug, Wang Ling? No. That's another price. Chapter 15:11. He had finally solved the problem of all the students who had been forcibly turned into ghosts in Nine Paths in high school. Wang Ling withdrew his clones and opened his eyes. To the students he had helped before, The appearance of these doppelgangers was indeed like a faintly discernible dream. There was a hint of illusion in the reality. By the time they came back to their senses, the teenager called Backward Wave, in their memories had already left. Then they forgot what Backward Wave looked like, and also forgot how horrifying they looked when they were turned into ghosts. The only thing they remembered was the illusory scene of that teenager called Backward Wave, leaving with the light of an angel descending, like a young radiant angel from heaven. He shook his feathers, not leaving a single cloud behind. Then, he engraved the memories of the clones he had retrieved into a dream on his hand. The content of the dreams was exactly what the students who had become ghosts had felt when their bodies had changed. That was the most direct impact. Wang Ling felt that it wouldn't be a bad idea to carve out these mental shocks as dreams, and then return them to the organizers of the school bullying. Pay them back in their own coin. As the saying went, every debt had a debtor. The reason why these students at the bottom of 9 paths in high school had become ghosts today was that none of these upper-class students who had participated in school violence were innocent. Since that was the case, Wang Ling intended to be a good person to the end. He decided to use these painful memories he had collected to inflict them on the school bullies. Of course, he wasn't going to turn them into ghosts. Wang Ling wasn't that cruel. He was just going to make them have nightmares. Until the bullies completely realized their mistakes and turned over a new leaf, they would experience the same mental shocks that these students who had been turned into ghosts had gone through every night. After this was done, the whole thing finally came to an end for Wang Ling. But this victory was only temporary. Behind the scenes, it was still Zhougong Xinghuai who was truly pulling the strings. Wang Ling actually hadn't expected the other party to actually have the guts to test him, since they had already made a move on him. Then Wang Ling felt that the second round of warnings could begin. He hadn't pulled out much hair the last time, and tonight was still a long night. The king's eye had already locked onto Zhougong Xinghuai's true form through that strand of hair. In other words, no matter what methods 9 Palace Starlight and the Devil Spirit used, it would be useless. Cicada shedding its carapace, or gecko severing its tail. Or he could scatter a lot of ghosts that had the ability to interfere. All of this was useless in front of Wang Ling. You can run, you can run. I'll follow you to the ends of the earth. So what if you have to travel hundreds of millions of light years first? The Five-Finger Mountain was indeed the Five-Finger Mountain. At the same time, Zhougong Xinghui began his escape plan in a panic. Neither she nor the demon spirit had expected that the person called Wang Lang would actually be the ghost who had stretched out his hand to pull out his hair from the mirror. To be exact, it wasn't actually a ghost. Instead, it was a genuine cultivator, a human being. Their previous understanding of Wang Ling as a ghost had been nothing more than wishful thinking. Damn it, how could a human cultivator, and number 60 High's mascot at that, have such terrifying strength? Zhougong Xinghui made a deal with Mo Ling in the past. She had in fact been greedy for the ghost's formidable strength. She had thought that if she signed a contract with the ghost and became one, her battle strength would increase substantially, even to a level that a normal earth cultivator wouldn't be able to match. But now Zhougong Xinghui realized that she had been wrong. There actually really was an evildoer on earth that was beyond her understanding. The demon spirit in her body wasn't an ordinary ghost. Instead, it was a top-notch vengeful spirit that had already lived for 1,000 years. Even Mo Ling hadn't expected that after a human was forcibly turned into a ghost, it could actually be turned back. This was an AF*** king math problem. It could even be reversed. So, Mo Ling was stupefied, and so was Zhougong Xinghui. They could sense the lifeless expressions on the faces of the students who had been corrected, which simply couldn't be described with words. Under such a violent mental assault, both Zhougong Xinghui and Mo Ling felt it. Their 3 views were being reshaped and their understanding was being refreshed. Then, when they came back to their senses, both the man and the ghost thought of the same thing at the same time. Run. They could sense the huge gap between them and Wang Ling. And this kind of gap in strength clearly couldn't be filled with the main book of the ghost record. Where there's life, there's hope. The most important thing right now was to escape. Zhougong Xinghui had wanted to test Wang Ling's strength. In the end, she hadn't expected that her test would almost cost her her life. We definitely can't just run like this. We have to plan our route, and then set off some interference. To delay the other party's progress, Jiugong Xinghui suggested. I know. Mo Ling nodded. I've just released 10,000 ghosts. These ghosts are scattered all over Sun Island, and will cause a lot of chaos. I think that should be enough to buy us some time. So you've already released them? Jiugong Xinghui was stunned. At that moment, she stroked her hair. It was just a casual grab. A large tuft of hair fell off the top of her head. This was the effect of Mo Ling unlocking the resting ghosts. Jiugong Xinghui's heart was bleeding when this large tuft of hair fell off. But extraordinary times called for extraordinary measures. Furthermore, Jiugong Xinghui was also wondering if these 10,000 ghosts could really delay Wang Ling. Are you sure it's okay to do this? Why do I feel like it's unreliable? Jiugong Xinghui raised her doubts. This is 10,000 ghosts. Furthermore, the ghosts under us are all carefully selected top-notch goods. They won't be that easy to deal with. Mo Ling said confidently. Even if we released 10,000 pigs for that Wang Ling to catch on Sun Island, it would still take a lot of time, right? Not to mention ghosts? I hope so. Jiugong Xinghui frowned. The next step in her plan was actually to escape Earth. Back then, her maiden family, the Akano family, which now represented the Star Plucker group, had in fact dealt with a silver-horned alien creature a long time ago. Now, the Star Plucker group was interdependent with this silver-horned creature, and had long since become an inseparable part of it. The Star Plucker group had actually always been prepared for an escape plan. It was just that they hadn't expected it to be carried out today. Let's go, we don't have much time left. After calculating the remaining time, Jiugong Xinghui hid herself in a magic artifact the size of a millet grain as a hiding vessel. She turned into a firefly-like ball of light, and quickly left the Jiugong family's residence. At the same time, inside the grain of rice, Jiugong Xinghui was also paying close attention to the clump of hair that had fallen off her head earlier. The current color of her hair still looked very healthy. This meant that the 10,000 ghosts that Mo Ling had released were still in operation. If they were wiped out, the hair on her hand would instantly turn dry and white, losing all its nutrients. According to Mo Ling's calculations, it wouldn't be easy to clear out these 10,000 ghosts. It would take at least a few days for the other party to do so. But the next moment, the slap in the face came too suddenly. Not long after Jiugong Xinghui escaped the Jiugong family, the clump of black hair in her hand instantly dried up and turned into nothingness. Both Jiugong Xinghui and Mo Ling's faces twisted in shock. They had only released 10,000 ghosts. In the blink of an eye, they had all been wiped out. Chapter 15:12. Wang Ling's purpose in using the strands of hair to lock onto 9 Palace Star Brilliance and Devil Spirits' bodies wasn't just for the ultimate goal. It was also to be able to properly set up the one-click cleanup spell trap. He had predicted that 9 Palace Star Brilliance and Devil Spirit would probably plan to escape. Since they were going to escape, they would definitely release a certain degree of interference. So it wasn't too strange for them to voluntarily release ghosts that were bound to them. Thus, the moment Wang Ling locked onto 9 Palace Star Brilliance's body, she had already lost. At that moment, Wang Ling had also set up the one-click cleanup spell trap on all the strands of hair, and it was a linked mechanism. As long as one of the ghosts released at the same time was destroyed, the rest would suffer the same damage. It was indeed very troublesome for Wang Ling to capture 10,000 ghosts wandering around Sun Island at the same time, mainly because he was worried that he would make too much noise and hurt the innocent. But it was different now. With such a mechanism of consecutive sitting, Wang Ling only needed to crush one ghost, and the rest would follow suit. And so, the moment the 10,000 ghosts disappeared at the same time, 9 Palace Star Brilliance and Devil Spirit were both extremely shocked. Was she still AF *** King Human? 9 Palace Star Brilliance's face twitched, and she involuntarily swallowed a mouthful of spittle in her throat. She was actually hiding in that rice-sized magic artifact. Using the King's Eye to track her, Wang Ling quickly locked onto the magic artifact the other party had used to escape. It looked like a grain of rice, but Wang Ling didn't think it was a magic artifact from Earth. He held back and did not immediately proceed with the next step of the suppression of the Nine Palace Starlight. Instead, he wanted to see where she would escape to next. It was obvious that it would be very difficult for Nine Palace Star Brilliance to be able to gather so many ghosts and merge them into one without a backer behind the scenes. Furthermore, Wang Ling had a feeling. He felt that Nine Palace Star Brilliance's aura was strange, despite the existence of devil spirit in her body. But Wang Ling could clearly distinguish between the auras of humans and ghosts. He found it strange, because he sensed a third aura flowing through Nine Palace Star Brilliance's body. What on earth was it? Following Nine Palace Star Brilliance all the way to the edge of Sun Island's golden coast. Then, the magic artifact that was the size of a grain of rice suddenly plunged into the beach. The entire process was so fast that ordinary people would not be able to see it with their naked eyes. Wang Ling had never expected the Star Zhaixing Group's base to actually be hidden under the golden beach of Sun Island. After following them in depth, Wang Ling was surprised to discover something. It turned out that under the golden beach, there was another hidden building that resembled an underground city. If Sun Island was compared to a poached egg, then the city under the golden beach was the yolk of this poached egg. It was tightly wrapped inside, and it was buried very deeply. Using the king's eye to track it, Wang Ling discovered some alien words that he had never seen before. Wang Ling was even more stunned by this. Wang Ming's purpose on the island this time was in fact to track down the DNA of the Silverhorn alien who had attacked Wei Ji and Jiang Yingying back then. How did the Star Pluckers get involved with an extraterrestrial civilization? It can't be, right? It can't be so coincidental, right? Just as Wang Ling was sighing over how small the world was, in the Star Pluckers' Golden City, which was connected to the Golden Beach, a tunnel leading to the depths of the ocean caught Wang Ling's attention. Wang Ling used the king's eye to track it from afar. Only then did he discover that there was something fishy about the depths of the ocean. It turned out to be a well-constructed underwater base. It was just like the Ultraman base that Wang Ling had seen in special films when he was a child. It was just that it was built completely under the ocean. It was surrounded by a sturdy defensive barrier which was densely covered in alien words. Given current human cultivator technology, it would be very difficult to break through this level of alien barrier. Of course, no matter how advanced this barrier was, it would only take a snap of Wang Ling's fingers to break it. But after thinking about it, Wang Ling decided not to make a move first. This was a very crucial discovery, because this underwater base looked very much like a secret alien military base. It was really too frightening. Such a colossus could actually be built right under the nose of a country, without anyone knowing. This was something that no country's government would ever allow to happen. The Star Pluckers' establishment of China was a huge risk, and was most likely a premeditated plan. If this matter was exposed, it would be the biggest scandal the entire Sun Island would face. Wang Ling switched the king's eye's free exploration perspective back to Nine Palace Star Brilliance. He saw that Nine Palace Star Brilliance and Devil Spirit had already driven their magic artifacts into the Star Pluckers' core base in the Golden City below. Everything was as Wang Ling had expected. As expected, the Star Pluckers were colluding with an alien civilization. In addition to human cultivators, there was also a kind of silver-skinned creature with tentacles on its head in the Star Pluckers' core base. And now he finally understood. The silver-horned person they had seen earlier was in fact an evolved version of this silver-skinned alien creature. The silver-skinned people had appeared on Earth a long time ago. They had a very powerful disguise which allowed them to change their skin like a chameleon. Furthermore, they only needed to provide a photo. Wang Ling had personally seen a silver-skinned person stare at a photo of a human for a few seconds. And then, like a kaleidoscope, there was an astonishing change in its body. It completely transformed into the human in the photo. In the core base, there was a place called the Human Learning Research Institute that attracted Wang Ling's special attention. After these silver-skinned people used the photo to transform into the person in the photo, they would also learn the culture of human cultivators to better integrate into society. They learned languages, various languages, played games, watched cartoons, and even learned how to do live streams and carry girls. Although their mobile game skills were very bad at the beginning, the silver-skinned people learned very quickly. They were also growing at a rapid pace. In the mobile MOBA game League of Kings, for example, it only took an average of 1 week for a silver-skinned person to go from crazily sending heads to League of Kings. Wang Ling couldn't help but sigh with emotion. It turned out that sometimes the teammates who looked like they were screwed over weren't necessarily primary school students when they played games. It was also possible that they were aliens who mingled in human society and were trying to adapt to human life. In the Human Learning Research Institute, the silver-skinned people had to undergo systematic training before they could enter human society. The people who ran these courses were all genuine humans, and they were all members of the Star Pluckers. Wang Ling speculated that the Star Pluckers on Sun Island might have some kind of deal with the silver-skinned people. The interesting thing was that the silver-skinned people were even able to learn something as trivial as eating and drinking under the tutelage of the Star Pluckers. Everyone, today we're going to learn the right way to drink soft drinks. A very sturdy man stood in front of the lectern. There were 30 silver-skinned people sitting at desks in the classroom, and on each desk was a can of Coke. This thing is commonly known as Fat Otaku Coke. When you drink it, you have to do what I did. Gently pull open the ring of the can, and then drink it down like this. After the man finished drinking it, the carbonated drink washed through his stomach and intestines, causing him to burp. He laughed loudly. It's normal to burp after drinking it like this. You don't need to panic. Other than carbonated drinks, there's also beer, which causes hiccups after drinking. But the alcohol lesson is a little more complicated. Given that students in other classes are already having sex after drinking, we'll split the alcohol homework into different classes. Wang Ling suddenly felt that these silver-skinned people were actually pretty interesting. In order to integrate into human society, they had deliberately learned human knowledge. In today's society where knowledge is power, even aliens who came to Earth couldn't avoid learning. But in Wang Ling's view, these silver-skinned people actually had a long way to go before they could learn. When they came into contact with human mathematics, Chinese language, physics and chemistry, and so on, they might collapse even more. But the silver-skinned people grew up very quickly, and were also able to infer many things from one instance. This made Wang Ling feel that he had to be on guard against these alien creatures. After all, the undersea military base connected to the Star Pluckers' underground Golden City was the work of these silver-skinned people. They combined the inherent knowledge in their minds and studied the laws of Earth to refine them over and over again through the collision of knowledge. In the end, it was possible to obtain knowledge that could break through modern attempts and thus unlock unknown technology. Now, Wang Ling seemed to understand a little why Peng Shiren had chosen the silver-skinned people as a target for evolution. The speed at which these silver-skinned people grew up was indeed terrifying. If they could evolve into silver horn people, their growth would probably be even more astonishing. We have to go. At that moment, Starlight Kyuka left his rice-sized escape magic artifact and appeared in the core base. The boss of the Star Pluckers appeared in the core base. He was a muscular, white-bearded man who was as sturdy as a small mountain. His name was Chie Chiohu, and he was the current boss of the Star Pluckers as well as Starlight Kyuka's father. Starlight, what on earth happened? Why are you so flustered? Chie Chiohu didn't understand. It had been Chie Chiohu's idea to combine a human body and a ghost for the first time. He had experimented on his daughter, Starlight Kyuka, and the results were very good. Moving into the Jiogong family had actually been Chie Chiohu's own plan. Chie Chiohu believed that the Jiogong family was the only one on Sun Island who had the ability to pose a substantial threat to the Star Pluckers. If he could smoothly use his daughter to annex the Jiogong family, then dominating Sun Island was just around the corner. All that was left was to use the ability of the hair demon spirit in Starlight Kyuka to control 100,000 Yin soldiers, and gradually conquer the whole world. Chie Chiohu had this ambition. And to support this ambition, he had to have formidable strength. Wang Ling observed Chie Chiohu's fighting strength. He actually wasn't too strong. He had about half of Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal's fighting strength. If Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal's fighting strength could be described as SOSO by human cultivators' standards, then Chie Chiohu was SSO among the SSO. But there was something worthy of Wang Ling's attention. While Chie Chiohu wasn't very strong, The silver-skinned man standing next to him was an expert. Grenade-throwing senior immortal was already a true venerated, and was about to become a venerated immortal. But this silver-skinned man actually had the fighting strength of 10 grenade-throwing senior immortals. A whole 10 grenade-throwing senior immortals. Wang Ling scared in his heart. Father, look. At that moment, Starlight Kyuka let down his hair to reveal 2 pitiful bald spots on the top of his head. This is... Chiechio, who was stupefied. He was well aware that his daughter's situation was different from other people's. Other people might have gone bald and become stronger. But his daughter's situation was the opposite. Baldness meant the loss of ghosts. Looking at the damage on the top of his head, his daughter had lost at least 10,000 ghosts. Chiechio was instantly a little incredulous. What the hell is going on? Why are there so many losses? It's Queen Wave, Starlight Kyuka said. For a moment, she felt that it would be hard for her to explain clearly to her father about that terrifying Queen Wave. Now she was thinking the same thing as Devil Spirit. Apart from running, there was no other way. Escape from Earth, then go to another planet and start a new life. This was what Starlight Kyuka was currently thinking about. Starlight, calm down. Our grand plan is being carried out steadily. Very soon, we'll unify the entire Earth. As your father, I won't allow you to think of such a useless thing. Chiechio felt that Starlight Kyuka must have been under too much pressure recently. Maybe she was hallucinating. Wasn't it normal for people to lose hair when they were under high mental stress? For example, that author Kushwan who had been accused of plagiarism a while ago. It was said that his hair was about to fall out. Chiechio had already investigated the overall level of cultivators on Earth long ago. How could there be such a strong person? Father, what I said is true. Starlight Kyuka felt that she couldn't explain herself. Chiechio still shook his head. I don't believe you, unless that Queen Wave you mentioned appears in front of me right now. At that moment, Wang Ling, who was observing everything through the king's eye, tilted his neck. He had never heard such a strange request. But given the gap in strength, Wang Ling didn't directly show himself, and just used the king's eye to summon a small clone. The small clone's face couldn't be seen clearly, it was just a vague outline. But the moment this outline appeared, Starlight Kyuka, who had already been tortured twice, recognized it at a glance. She was scared out of her wits on the spot. It's him. He's Queen Wave. Don't be afraid, daughter. Father is here. Chiechio sneered. Then, facing Wang Ling's virtual body, he exerted force from his feet and waist at the same time, and threw a palm from a distance. Like an air cannon, the palm made an explosive sound as it rushed toward Wang Ling's small clone and accurately landed on Wang Ling's body. Then the small clone wasn't hurt at all. For a moment, Wang Ling suddenly thought of a phrase that had recently become very popular. That was scraping. Chapter 15:13. The small clone in front of him had about a trillionth of Wang Ling's strength. The main thing was that Wang Ling was worried that the main body wouldn't be able to control its power well. It could directly turn a person into tofu pudding. Otherwise, it wouldn't have used this method to test the waters. The small clone. It was just a small clone. In Wang Ling's view, it was relatively weak in all aspects. Based on the clone's level, the real clone was something like Crispy Noodles Dao Monarch. It was the highest level among the clones that Wang Ling had created so far. After the real clone, the clones were ranked. They were the normal clone, the big clone, and finally the small clone. The levels of the clones were different. There was also a huge difference in the actual battle strength that each clone possessed. The small clone was the weakest, yes. But Wang Ling hadn't expected it to be the weakest. The other party's damage to the small clone had actually only been scraping sand. And this little bit of damage was insignificant. Given the small clone's self-healing ability, it could repair itself in the blink of an eye. Thus, this level of spirit energy was completely negligible to Wang Ling. When his attack failed, Chiechio's first reaction was disbelief. After a brief daze, he immediately condensed the metal in the nearby space. Pieces of fish scale-like armor formed in front of his eyes and whizzed toward Wang Ling's small clone. It had to be said that Chihu was an outstanding cultivator, with a metal spirit root. This was a method of attacking by extracting rare metals from the nearby space. If you hadn't cultivated this magic to the acme of perfection, it would have been very difficult to do. The condensed pieces of golden metal scales cut through the air with an ear-piercing screech. Boom. The moment they collided with the small clone, a curtain of smoke rose up in front of them. Success. Chihu withdrew the ominous glint in his eyes. This was an original move of the golden scale meat mincing machine. It was mainly inspired by web authors who liked to drag out their updates. The moment the move was launched, the metal elements in the nearby space would quickly condense and turn into sharp, scale-like blades. Hundreds of thousands of fish scales would cut the target they had chosen together. In this storm of blades, it wouldn't last more than a few seconds. The body would turn into diced meat for dumplings. In the smoke, Wang Ling's little clone patted the dust off its body. The so-called law of smoke and no harm was once again reflected at this moment. Akino Shohu was an expert, but he was nothing compared to Wang Ling's little clone. The silhouette of the clone was not as tall as the main body. It looked to be about the size of a 10-year-old child, but the deterrence it emitted was astonishing. The clone raised his hand, and the smoke in the area was completely swept away. The golden scale meat mincing machine just now had no effect on the clone at all. He walked step by step towards Akano Chioku. His footsteps were silent. But here, everyone's hearts seemed to be ringing like a great Dao bell. Starlight Jiogong, Chiohu, and that silver-skinned human king, who was standing to the side and had the battle strength of 10 grenade-throwing senior immortals, were scared witless. Monster! What kind of monster is this? Chiyichihu shouted in fear. His unique skill was completely ineffective. This was something that Akano Chioku did not expect. At that moment, in the main hall of Golden City, Akano Chiohu, Starlight Jiogong, and that silver-skinned human king with the battle strength of 10 thunders. Under the small clone's footsteps, they quickly retreated. The trembling was too strong. The small clone hadn't even made a move yet. Just by suppressing them with its aura, the three of them were already scared out of their wits. It just took a light step forward. The chi and blood in their chests were already overflowing, and they all suffered internal injuries. With a wah sound, they spat out blood in unison. No, they had to resist. They had to run. If they didn't, they would die. At the same time, all three of them thought of running. Night of 100 Ghosts. Starlight Jiogong shouted at that moment. Helpless, Starlight Jiogong could only pull out a tuft of his hair. With a gentle blow, the shrill screams of many wandering souls and vengeful ghosts immediately rang out in the main hall. Night of 100 Ghosts. In a short period of time, he could summon over 100 powerful ghosts to control. It was a little similar to Gao Tianming from number 1 Devil Subduing High, who could control over 100 puppets. It was just that Night of 100 Ghosts wasn't so complicated, and it was an instant spell, so it was still disruptive. For other cultivators in particular, it might be very difficult to deal with. But now, it was Wang Ling's small clone who was standing here. The clone didn't care about this kind of method at all. The clone gently raised its hand. The movement of the hand was clearly extremely lazy and slow, but it directly grabbed one of the ghosts that was scurrying around in the air. Then, with a bang, it crushed the haunted house's head on the spot. The spell trap set up by the main body was also beneficial to the clone. The one-click cleanup effect was triggered, and over 100 wandering ghosts were instantly turned to ashes. Starlight Jiogong seemed to have expected this result. She actually didn't know how the little monster in front of her had done it. But the moment she saw it with her own eyes, Starlight Jiogong's already bald scalp felt a little numb. When Starlight Jiogong calmed down, she was stunned to find that her father and that silver-skinned human king, who had been standing next to her, had actually run away. On the ground, Chiyechihu used his own way to leave Starlight Jiogong's last words. Daughter, Dad will always love you. Love you, my ass. Abandoned by her biological father in an instant, Starlight Jiogong's face was full of despair. She even wondered if she really was Chiyechihu's biological daughter. Is it okay for us to leave just like this? Silver-skinned human king asked worriedly, scepter in hand. This was a spatial magic artifact, warp warp warp. It had the ability to teleport short distances. With a light tap of the scepter, it could get them out of danger. That person wouldn't kill Starlight. If he really wanted to kill her, he would have done it long ago. Chiyechiahu took out a disc magic artifact and brought up an image of the core hall. This image was projected in the air. He had wanted to see Starlight Jiogong's situation. In the end, the image showed that Starlight Jiogong had already fallen face down. She looked completely unconscious. The little monster, whose silhouette could only be seen clearly, slowly got up from the ground and abruptly looked in the direction of the monitor, as if it was looking at Chiyechiahu affectionately. In the next moment, whether it was Chiyechiahu or Silverskin Human King, the smiles on their faces completely disappeared, because in the image in the air, the little monster directly reached out towards them. A small palm directly penetrated through the screen and grabbed his head. Chapter 15-14. Are you a human or a ghost? The moment the little clone's hand touched Chiyechiahu's head, the hair on the back of his neck instantly stood on end. He subconsciously shrank his neck and tried to break free. However, the little clone was too strong, and its small hand was like a suction cup that gripped Chiyechiahu's entire head like a bowling ball. Then it lifted up. The little clone wasn't a complete body, and didn't have intelligence like Crispy Noodle's Dao monarchs. It was just a small fraction of Wang Ling's strength. Thus, the little clone didn't answer Chiyechiahu's questions. He was an emotionless being. The strength in the little hand gradually increased. Chiyechiahu felt as if the top of his head was being cut open. Don't use so much strength, it hurts. Chiyechiahu gasped in pain. His whole body was convulsing, and the feeling of struggling before death made him feel powerless in the face of everything. At the same time, he realized something. This little monster in front of him was serious. The other party really did want to kill him. Help me! Chiyechiahu shouted weakly. As a cultivator with an outstanding metal spirit root, he had already completely metallized his head to increase the strength of his body. At that moment, Chiyechiahu's entire body was coated with a layer of metal. But this level of physical strength still wasn't enough in the face of the little clone's strength. The little clone was emotionless and expressionless, and Chiyechiahu couldn't even clearly see what it looked like. It only gave him a terrifying outline that pierced the depths of his soul. In the face of the little clone that was floating in front of him like a child or a demon, Chiyechiahu instantly felt that the cultivation path he had been pursuing for thousands of years had been completely overturned in that moment. Even his worldview collapsed at the same time. Just as the little clone was about to crush Chiyechiahu's head like a watermelon, next to him, Silverskin Human King finally couldn't take it anymore. He stretched out his hands and took out a very small magic artifact. Looking at it from the little clone's perspective, Wang Ling was stunned to see that it was actually a black top the size of a ping-pong ball. What was this? There was a puzzled look in his eyes. Somehow, he felt that this black top looked a little familiar. Just then, Wang Ling suddenly felt the little clone's vision blur. As the pitch-black top spun, countless rays of light that were invisible to the naked eye were released. In his king's eye, it was an extremely distorted pitch-black ray of light that directly formed a vortex, as if it could suck in a person's mind. Before Wang Ling could react, there was a bang. The doppelganger was affected by the gyroscopic ray. Due to the imbalance in space, it was forced to disappear. Was this the power of the black stone? Wang Ling was surprised by this result. However, he was sure that the 100 rays released by the black top came from the black stone that Peng Shiren had taken out back then. It was just that the special energy released by the spinning top was not as powerful as the black stone. It wouldn't be surprising if he sent a clone over. If it was Crispy Noodle's Dao Monarch's highest level true clone, he wouldn't have been affected like this. When he was dealing with Akano Takaru, Wang Ling controlled the little clone's will. As a result, the small clone's movements seemed slow and unhurried. Actually, he just wanted to see if Akano Takaru and Silver Skin Human King had any other trump cards up their sleeves. Wang Ling was pleasantly surprised by his current harvest. He had been searching for the whereabouts of the black stone all along. After Peng Shiren disappeared, he had lost track of the black stone. Who would have thought that on this trip abroad, he would once again find the vine he had always wanted to catch? On the other side, the silver-skinned human king and Akano Takaru used the black top to push back Wang Ling's little clone. Both of their expressions were exceptionally unsightly. The power of the black stone had been fused into the top, and the radiation it produced was too strong. When Peng Shiren had held the black stone back then, he had been severely injured every second, let alone Akano Takaru and this silver-skinned human king. It had only been a few seconds since they had taken out the top. The moment the little clone disappeared, both of them collapsed, their faces pale, and they vomited blood like crazy. The silver-skinned human king used the last of his strength to put 2 life-saving elixirs into Akano Takaru's mouth, and into his own. After a long while, as the effects of the elixirs dissolved in their bodies, the two of them regained their ability to move. In less than 2 seconds, both of them had lost over 500 years of cultivation on average. Are you crazy? You actually used this kind of thing. I had no choice. You were about to be crushed to death by that little monster just now. The silver-skinned human king said. Senior Peng said that this top was dangerous. But I had to do it to save my life. But that's 500 years of cultivation. Where there's life, there's hope. The silver-skinned human king said. This black top pushed back that monster's clone, so the monster's main body will definitely be severely injured. We won't be the only ones injured. That's true. Akano Takaru nodded. Then, what should we do now? We can only ask Senior Peng for help first, the silver-skinned human king said. Also, I suggest that we temporarily move our headquarters to the space where Senior Peng is now. That place? Akano Takaru frowned. But once we go there, we'll lose all our abilities. It's the same. Senior Peng also doesn't have the ability now, right? The silver-skinned human king smiled bitterly. They had no other choice. After all, they still had to avoid that monster's follow-up actions, to be on the safe side. It was better to hide and command first. In the dormitory, Wang Ling once again locked onto Akano Takaru and the silver-skinned human king's positions. He didn't continue. Instead, he planned to cast a long line to catch a big fish, and see what they would do next. As for the injury that the silver-skinned human king had mentioned, actually, it wasn't an exaggeration. Wang Ling was indeed injured. After all, that black stone could emit a strange ray that limited his strength. After a while, Wang Ling would naturally have it. But just now, in those 2 seconds, because of that black top containing the power of the black stone, it had actually shaken off 0.5 centimeter of Wang Ling's hair. Wang Ling was utterly stunned. So, this was what it felt like to be injured. Actually, Wang Ling was a little touched. After all, there weren't many people in this universe who could truly hurt him. He sighed emotionally in his heart. Wang Ling suddenly received a message from Jia Yin. It was almost midnight. At this time, the freshman welcoming party had already ended. Jia Yin's message made Wang Ling frown slightly. Wang Ling summarized Jia Yin's message. It said that several girls were walking toward his dormitory after the freshman welcoming party. Chapter 15:15. About 2 hours ago, Wang Ling had been battling wits and courage with the 9 Palace Starlight Group. Jiudao Wahai's freshman welcoming party had just begun. Students in China weren't allowed to drink, but at Jiudao Wahai's freshman welcoming party, there were still some low-alcohol mixed drinks. A lot of people came over to toast Lotus Sun and Wang Ming with evil intentions in an attempt to get them drunk. Welcome from afar. On behalf of Jiudao's Red Flame Association, I would like to extend a warm welcome to you. Let's drink first. I'll drink first as a sign of respect. A man who claimed to be from the 9 Paths and the Crimson Flame Society said. It wasn't until then that Lotus Sun realized that the internal structure of Jiudao was actually quite complicated. Although there were student unions in China, they were officially recognized organizations. It was strictly forbidden for students to form cliques in private. But in Sun Island's Jiudao High, this was actually allowed. It was said that this was to foster a sense of competition between students. Only with competition could there be progress. The gangs set up by these students were actually on the same level as the student union. If the overall score of a gang exceeded that of the student union in the annual comprehensive survey, the president of the student union would change hands. So in some sense, the current president of the student union of Jiudao Wahai was that Akano Usagi with two birds, Peacock Man and Sparrow Girl. He was actually quite a capable person. In the last few years, the overall score of the student union had been very high, even higher than the scores of the small student gangs put together. Some people said that before Akano Usagi graduated, his position as president of the student union was 100% secure. Jiudao Wahai now had the 7 biggest gangs known as the Rainbow 7 Gang: Red Flame Association, Orange Light Association, Yellow Regency Association, Green Hair Association, Blue Appearance Association, and Purple Maple Association. They all had the urge to bring down the student union. But because of the enormous influence of the student union, they were also afraid that their own student gangs would use too much force. On the contrary, it might even benefit other gangs. Just like that, the Rainbow Seven Sons gang formed a marvelous balance of power. Currently, Jiudao Wahai was led by Usagi and the student union, as well as the Rainbow Seven gang, which had a wonderful balance of power. It was also known as the Generation of Miracles by Jiudao and his students. Sister-in-law, don't you think this Jiuha High School is very interesting? Wang Ming picked up a goblet and smiled. This was the highest alcohol level cocktail in the restaurant. Wang Ming was an adult to begin with, and he could actually hold his liquor very well. Every time he encountered a research bottleneck, Wang Ming would in fact secretly drink erguotu in search of inspiration. Little brother fool is making fun of me again. Lotus Sun's face was as red as a tomato. I can call you Miss Rong, but every time I call you Miss Rong, it's Miss Rong. In their hearts, they would call out for sister-in-law 1,000 times. Wang Ming said, I've now completely figured it out. You and Ling Ling are together. It seems to be beneficial to me too. I don't have to worry about my research funding anymore. Lotus Sun. It could only mean that brother was still Brother Ming. With just a few words, he had rendered Lotus Sun speechless. Silently sighing, the girl could only blush and quickly change the topic. That Chive Sasaki is more capable than I thought. Indeed. Wang Ming nodded. Under Jiuha's system, it's indeed not easy for him to stand firm. Speaking of ligation, then, has Miss Rong thought about ligation after you and Ling Ling get married? Of course, the point isn't ligation but marriage. Lotus Sun's face was still red as she pretended she hadn't heard anything and said to herself, Little brother fool, have you noticed that the alcoholic drinks here are pretty good? Indeed. Wang Ming nodded. Speaking of drinking, how many tables will you and Ling Ling have to set up for your wedding? After chatting with Wang Ming for a while, quite a number of Jiuha gang members came over to propose a toast. The truth was that this bit of alcohol couldn't do anything to Wang Ming or Lotus Sun at all. As long as Wang Ming wanted to, he could use his brain waves to disperse the alcohol through his pores at any time. As for Lotus Sun, it was even easier. She had mysterious C's sword chi to protect her, and as soon as the alcohol entered her heart meridian, the protective effect of the sword chi would dilute the alcohol in her blood vessels. No matter how strong the alcohol was when it entered Lotus Sun's body, it would be like watered-down beer in KTV, and she wouldn't feel the alcohol at all. It was close to 11 o'clock, but Lotus Sun and Wang Ming were still on high alert. Their intuition told them that this freshman welcoming party wasn't as simple as it seemed. Sure enough, just as the party was about to end, Sparrow, the vice president of the student union, suddenly took the initiative to talk to Lotus Sunday. At that moment, the whole audience instantly fell silent. Apart from the light and melodious dance music, it was as if everyone had discussed it beforehand as they waited for the confrontation between Sparrow and Lotus Sunday. Hello, Lotus-chan. I've actually been meaning to ask you just now. Why didn't Holeng-sang come? He's not feeling well and is resting. Lotus Sun said with a vigilant look in her eyes. Oh, I see, that's really a pity. I heard that Holeng-sang is your school's famous mascot, and that number 60 High has won several big prizes because of it. That's the result of everyone's joint efforts. He who gets Holeng-sang wins the world. This saying can't be false, right? Sparrow laughed. Holang Sang ranks very high on Jiudao's comprehensive national ranking list of high school students. What ranking is this? At that moment, Lotus Sun's eyes darkened as she suddenly felt like she had been tricked. Although the girl in front of her had a nickname Sparrow, it was clear that she was a man-eating sparrow. Wang Ling had been focused on dealing with 9 Palace Star Brilliance earlier. He had never thought that at the end of the freshman welcoming party, a group of strange girls would suddenly come looking for him. Jai Yin had been monitoring the door, but by the time she realized that something was wrong, it was already too late. That was because there were so many girls looking for Wang Ling. And not just girls, there were also quite a few boys. There was no way she could stop them on her own. The point was that she couldn't directly make a move. Jai Yin was well aware that she was now an assistant teacher at number 60 High, and represented number 60 High's image. If she rushed out just like that, wouldn't that be ruining her image? In the distance, Sparrow, who felt that her scheme had succeeded, sneered. Have you watched Wolf Toothless? Of course, it's an ancient power play from Huaxiao Nation. My parents watch it all the time, said Leek Sasaki. Don't you think that my current method is similar to this TV series? You mean that Qilin scholar Mei Xiaosu in the TV series? That's right. Sparrow nodded. I've already released the news. He who gets Holang Sang wins the world. This way, a lot of people, men and women, will look for that Holang Sang to cooperate with. In this way, won't the president and eldest Miss Sun have a chance to go on a date? As expected of Sparrow Sauce. But I still don't understand. What's with that ranking list of high school students? Why is Holang Sang's name on it? That. Sparrow chuckled. Of course I added it in the black gold system. Do you really think that Holang Sang is very strong? No way, no way. Chapter 15-16. The internal structure of 9 Paths in high school was more complicated than Lotus Sun had imagined. She looked at the endless stream of Rainbow 7 gang members pouring in the direction of Wang Ling's dormitory. Lotus Sun immediately regretted not investigating the matter earlier. It was very obvious that this was a conspiracy. Leek Sasaki had secured his position as president of the student union. Apart from his own efforts and strength, the deputy president under him, whose codename was Sparrow, was the real deal. This man-eating sparrow had drawn everyone's attention to Wang Ling. His real target was probably her. Recalling her grudge with Leek Sasaki back then, Lotus Sun couldn't help heaving a long sigh in her heart. It looked like it was time to find an opportunity to talk to Leek Sasaki. Are you going to look for that Leek Sasaki? It was as if Wang Ming had already predicted that Lotus Sun would make this decision. How did Brother Fool know? Lotus Sun was surprised. I can't read minds. Wang Ming smiled and pointed at his own head. It's just a mental deduction. Wang Ming smiled and pointed at his brain. After I input your temperament, personality, and other data on your 3 measurements, many lines instantly appeared in my mind, clearly listing all the possible decisions you could make, and then ranking them according to probability. And the first of these rankings is, go talk to Leek Sasaki. Lotus Sun took a deep breath. I understand the principle, but why do I need data on your 3 measurements? Of course, the more the better, and the more accurate the better. Don't worry, Miss Rong, your data isn't bad. It's just the right size. Saying this, Wang Ming stretched out his hand and grabbed a grapefruit from the fruit platter. No, this one's a little too big. He threw the grapefruit away, then picked up a mandarin. That's not right, this one's too small. Finally, he picked up a honey peach. That's about it. Lotus Sun. Realizing that he had been a little rude in front of his sister-in-law, Wang Ming hurriedly put down the fruit and coughed. It was just an example, Miss Rong, don't mind me. Actually, what I meant was that Miss Rong is very outstanding. Big breasts are actually useless. Look at that master of Shadow Stream. What happened to her? After hearing this, Lotus Sun still felt that something was wrong. But in the Immortal King cartoon, she's very strong. Wang Ming spread his hands. That's the Immortal King's daily life. What does it have to do with my Immortal King's daily life? Lotus Sun. There is no perfect work. There will always be regrets. I'll be fine as long as I improve next time. Wang Ming smiled bitterly and said, we digressed. By the way, what are you going to do with that leek Sasaki? Do you need my help? There's no need. I can handle it myself. I'm still a little worried now, classmate Wang Ling. Lotus Sun frowned slightly. She released Mysterious Sea's sword chi, and like a radar, it captured the students who were rushing in Wang Ling's direction after the freshman welcoming party. Because of what the sparrow said. Now, the students of the Rainbow Seven Suns gang had sent a beautiful female representative to pull Wang Ling into their gang. The girl wasn't worried that Wang Ling would fall into her trap. He just felt a little uncomfortable in his heart. She put her hand to her forehead. Suddenly, he felt that he was hopeless. Classmate Wang Ling clearly hadn't responded to her at all. Everything was just a one-sided, unrequited love of hers. In the end, under such circumstances, she was actually jealous over such a thing. There were times when Lotus Sun realized that she was quite selfish. But when it came to relationships, she felt that being a little selfish wasn't wrong. Because this was a one-way street to begin with. Don't worry, sister-in-law, leave it to me. Wang Ming curled his lips. Because he knew Lotus Sun very well, the accuracy of the brain deduction technique was actually very high. Literature University, he could almost immediately divine what Lotus Sun was thinking. Brother Air, just call me Rong Rong. Okay, sister-in-law. Lotus Sun's face was boiling hot, and she had already given up on resisting. Wang Ming folded his arms and smiled at Lotus Sunday. Actually, it's very reasonable for me to call you sister-in-law. Lotus Sun. Wang Ming. Have you noticed, sister-in-law, you're gradually becoming like Wang Ling? At first, Lotus Sun didn't quite understand what he meant. But very quickly, she instantly understood. At that moment, the girl couldn't help laughing out loud. In the end, some people would live like the person they hated the most. And some people were like her. If they really lived like the person they liked, that wouldn't be too bad. In the dormitory, facing the menacing Jiudao High School students, Wang Ling pinched his fingers together and quickly figured out what was going on. The school system was different, and as a foreign school, Jiudao High School's internal environment was even more complicated. Wang Ling sighed in his heart. Competition was indeed a good thing. But with such a clique-forming system, the students became even more competitive with each other. As a result, it had become a source of school violence. And one of the main reasons why this group of people now had such deep faith in the backwave sang. It was still that national ranking list of high school students. In other countries, Wang Ling didn't know. But on Sun Island, it seemed that high school students especially believed in this thing. This was a list of overall strength, a little similar to the sword ranking list of the Sword King world, which would convert a student's various data into a comprehensive score, and finally present it on the list. The sparrow had done something to Wang Ling. On his way back to help Wang Ling out of trouble, Wang Ming had already started working on it. He had corrected Wang Ling's data. Wang Ling's data had returned to its normal ranking, but it was actually still very high. This was because Wang Ling had indeed represented number 60 high in a number of important competitions previously, and the key point was that number 60 high had coincidentally obtained excellent rankings. This had directly caused Wang Ling's luck value to greatly increase his overall score. The situation was more difficult than Wang Ming had imagined. But this wasn't a problem for Wang Ming. He knew that keeping a low profile had always been his little brother's principle. So in this situation, the best way Wang Ming could think of was to beat him at his own game. Backwave sang is it. Wang Ming smiled. Hua Nation's culture was broad and profound, and he actually didn't really understand Sun Island students. For example, did Sparrow and Chive Sasaki know what backwave sang meant? All he did was move his eyeballs. Wang Ming immediately transmitted the data to the terminal through his brainwaves, and instantly hacked into the entire ranking list. It only took an instant. Wang Ming had changed the IDs of the hundreds of thousands of high school students on Sun Island's national ranking list to backwave sang. Furthermore, when everyone opened the ranking list, Chapter 15-17. Those people who keep saying that after cultivating for so long, they're still at the foundation establishment stage, should look at you just like me. I look at you with envy. The treasures that cultivators have accumulated for thousands of years. All the spells, artifacts, knowledge, and positioning are like gifts specially prepared for you. Spirit medicine growth, killing monsters to level up, treasure hunting, cross-level combat. The fruits of cultivation civilization are unlocked layer by layer, and you can enjoy them to your heart's content. You can freely learn a spell, learn a routine, join a sect, and cultivate in a faraway place. Many of you have been reborn in a different cultivation world since the beginning. Many of you have entered your 40s in childhood, unperturbed by what the enemy is doing. What is the difference in levels? The gap between realms has been broken. Relying on the same routine, you can act like a hero in the same world or a different world. You have the power that we once dreamed of, the power to be the main character. Surge forward, young wave. It was a video that Wang Ming had created using a technique similar to a virtual live streamer. The middle-aged uncle in the video and the sexy and magnetic subwoofer had all been created by Wang Ming's techniques. Even so, the video of the speech still shocked the students of 9 Paths and high school who were watching. In the student union office, after the freshman orientation party, Peacock Man and Sparrow arrived. From the angle of the student union office, they could see the dormitory building. The two of them were about to enjoy the spectacle of the Rainbow Seven brothers besieging Wang Ling, but unexpectedly, after Peacock Man entered the ranking list, he was also forced to watch a video about cultivator Young Wave. What is this? After watching it, Peacock Man was so scared that he almost dropped his phone. There was a stunned expression on his face. Senior Sister Sparrow, something's wrong. All the names on this ranking list have become Young Wave. How can that be? Sparrow frowned. She was extremely confident in her hacking skills. What she had done just now made her feel even more invulnerable. She had never thought that her trick would be so easily cracked in such a short time. In order to stabilize Wang Ling's revised ranking, Sparrow had added a lot of defensive walls after hacking into the system. In the end, she had never thought that the code she had typed would actually be as brittle as paper. When Sparrow took the phone from Peacock's hand and saw the changes on the leaderboard, a look of disbelief appeared on her face. He quickly connected Peacock Man's phone to his computer. After typing frantically on the keyboard, Sparrow's expression changed from incredulity to fear. It can't be like this. In front of her screen, a virtual character wearing the same mask as the V for Vendetta occupied her entire computer screen. As one of the top experts in the hacker industry, Sparrow recognized the identity of this person at a glance. This was the top hacker in the world. Old V. He was also a senior in the industry that Sparrow had always admired. On the screen, Old V was holding an offering table with both hands, on which was a 3-legged red sandalwood incense burner. Old V did not say anything. He only used the code below to communicate with the Sparrow in an encrypted manner. If it was translated into words, it would form the following sentences. I already have all your information. I advise you to stop. This is your final warning. Otherwise, I can only light incense for you. This was a language that only experienced hackers could understand. Sparrow looked at the code with a pale face. I understand, Senior. I won't do anything to Holang Sang again. Sparrow swiftly admitted defeat. She could offend anyone, and could even dig out anyone's heart. But this Old V was the only person she didn't want to offend. This was a top expert in the hacker circle. He was someone like Zhao Zilong who could freely enter and exit other countries' security networks, and who could escape unscathed. Almost every country's security network had traces of Old V, but no one could do anything about such an arrogant hacker. All these years, she had worked hard to learn technology so that she could get closer to her idol. Thus, Sparrow was thoroughly agitated. She tried to communicate through the code. Senior Old V, I've liked you for a long time. On the other side, Wang Ming never thought that Sparrow would actually be his fan. He smiled bitterly. He had chosen the codename Old V when he was young and immature. It was full of chinibyu. It was just like the WeChat ID that a lot of people chose when they were young and immature. If it wasn't for the fact that WeChat had given everyone a chance to change their ID a while ago, there might still be people who couldn't use it until now. Hearing Sparrow say that she liked him, Wang Ming instantly felt that this matter was easy to handle. Since she was a fan, Wang Ming naturally had his own way of dealing with fans. What? Do you want to be apprenticed to me? Wang Ming used his brainwaves to release the code as he replied. Can I? Sparrow was extremely excited. You can, but I want to test you. Then what do you want me to do, senior? I want you to completely hide Ho Langsang before he leaves. Hide him? Yes, he's the younger brother of a good friend of mine. And he doesn't like to be disturbed. Wang Ming said. You're actually causing trouble for me by doing this. Sorry, senior. I didn't know he was related to you. Sparrow apologized sincerely. She really liked Old V. It wasn't just admiration. Sparrow felt that she could even give up everything, even her life, for Old V. The condition of being his disciple was very tempting, but what she hoped even more was to become Old V's lover. Senior, can I be your girlfriend? At that moment, Sparrow summoned up her courage again and said, Senior, you don't need to answer me now. I know, we can develop it step by step. We can also start with a master-disciple relationship. Wang Ming dropped his forehead into his hand. He was glad that he was communicating with Sparrow in code. Jiaying couldn't understand this stuff. Otherwise, he would definitely be skinned alive. Pretending to agree seemed like a good way to use Sparrow, but Wang Ming didn't think that much. This was too despicable. It was the behavior of a scumbag. He deeply loved Jai. Thus, he didn't intend to hide that he had a girlfriend. Wang Ming immediately replied, Sorry, I already have someone I like. Sparrow didn't reply for a very long time. After a few minutes or so, Sparrow said, It's fine, senior. Then, let me be your disciple first. Wang Ming said. Confirm the task senior gave me again. I just need to hide Ho Langsang, right? Yes. Okay. After confirming, Sparrow turned off the internet. Hide Ho Langsang. From Sparrow's point of view, this wasn't too difficult. No matter how deep he was hidden on the internet, it was better to directly take action. Just kill him. Chapter 15-18. Wang Ming had wanted to take advantage of Sparrow's worship of him and use her to settle the matter with Wang Ling. But what Wang Ming never expected was that the Sparrow was actually a black-boned chicken at its core. Lacking an overall understanding of Sparrow, it seemed that Wang Ming had made a serious mistake in his judgment this time. More crucially, Wang Ming didn't realize how serious the problem was going to be. Wednesday, December 16th. In the wee hours of Jadahe High School, Sparrow hadn't slept all night. As the vice president of the student union, she had issued a curfew so that the students who had gathered around Wang Ling could quickly evacuate. She had been busy all night in the student union office, preparing a plan to completely hide Wang Ling. In a work manual for the vice president, Sparrow wrote down in detail the plan she was going to carry out to kill and dispose of the body. Now there were no longer any students around Ho Langsang. As long as she acted according to her plan, she could indeed kill Ho Langsang. In any case, it wouldn't be the first time. When she wrote the part about disposing of the body, Sparrow frowned. 50 grams of elementary corpse powder could quickly dissolve the body of a cultivator at the foundation establishment stage of a normal weight. Considering the possibility that Ho Langsang might be hiding his strength, Sparrow took out her trump card, Advanced Corpse Dissolving Powder. This kind of advanced corpse powder could quickly dissolve even a cultivator at the golden core stage. But there was a prerequisite for using corpse powder, and that was to ensure that the target was already dead. Otherwise, it would fall on a living person. The effect of corpse powder wasn't much different from that of baby talcum powder. Secondly, there was the problem of how to clean up any traces left after corpse powder was used. There were actually a lot of ways to examine corpses. Even if the corpse was cleaned up, if traces of corpse powder were detected, there was still a chance that there would be evidence left behind. For this reason, Sparrow had prepared an all-purpose cleaning reagent. She had taken it from a scumbag forensic doctor who had tried to do something to her. In the forensic work of the cultivation world, after every autopsy, the autopsy room had to be further sterilized and cleaned. This all-purpose cleaning reagent was a must for forensic doctors. To be on the safe side, after the corpse powder had completely dissolved the body, just one drop would be enough to completely clean up any traces left at the scene. He had prepared all the plans. Satisfied, Sparrow closed the workbook and smiled. Senior K, I'll be able to finish the task soon. At the same time, in the dormitory, Wang Ming, who was lying on the same bed as Jiayin, suddenly couldn't help trembling. Behave yourself, why are you shaking? You've been rubbing up against me for so long just now, hooligan. The dormitory bed wasn't big, and Jiayin was squeezed into it by Wang Ming, half of her body pressed against the wall. Although she said she was disgusted, she did not push the man behind her away. We're an old married couple. What's there to be shy about? Wang Ming smiled. Then his body trembled again. I'm sorry, Factor. I don't know what's going on either. I just feel that something is wrong. Jiayin sat up. Did you make the wrong decision? In the past, when you were doing experiments, you would shiver like this whenever you felt that something was wrong. It's possible. Wang Ming was like a wolf dog as he abruptly circled Jiayin. My mistake was probably not taking care of you on the spot. Jiayin took a deep breath and glared at Wang Ming in annoyance. As expected. Men were insatiable creatures. I'm telling you, behave yourself. If you don't behave yourself, don't even think about touching me in the future. With a red face, Jiayin wrapped the quilt around her like an egg roll, not leaving a single gap for Wang Ming. Wang Ming laughed and directly hugged Jiayin along with the quilt. Factor, I suddenly remembered, after what you said just now, I suddenly felt that there was something a little strange about that Sparrow. You mean that vice president of the student union? Jiayin thought for a moment and said, Rong texted me just now, saying that this girl is very sinister and full of wicked ideas. I'm worried that she'll do something bad to Ling Ling. I think you're worrying for nothing. Your little brother is a soul formation cultivator, there's nothing to worry about. Actually, Wang Ming was mainly worried that something might happen to the sparrow. Before it had attacked him, it had still been a living sparrow, but after it had attacked, it wasn't necessarily the case. Shadowstream's example was still there. After all, those three brothers' corpses had yet to turn cold. But then again, when Wang Ming heard that Jiayin still thought that Wang Ling was only at the soul formation stage, he couldn't help laughing. Factor. Actually, Ling Ling is stronger than you think. He's not just at the soul formation stage. What did you say? Jiayin thought she had heard wrong, and was immediately stunned. 16 years old. Itinerant immortal? I don't want to lie to you, Factor. You can be a little bolder, said Wang Ming. This. Jiayin was instantly so shocked that she couldn't speak coherently. Don't tell me he's a true immortal? Yes and no. Just take it that way. Wang Ming thought for a moment. Actually, it wasn't easy for Jiayin to make this kind of deduction. After all, the highest level known on Earth was true immortal, and grenade-throwing senior immortal was just an exception. For many people, a 16-year-old true immortal was already impossible. But in the future, there would be a completely new upper limit for cultivators on Earth. After all, Earth had already completed its upgrade, and there was no need to worry about a lack of spirit chi. As long as it developed for another few thousand years, it would be the second domain of the gods. From your expression, don't tell me little brother's strength is at a realm that I don't know about. Yes. Wang Ming nodded. Jiayin looked at this serious little face, and her heart was shaken once more. Looking at his expression, she knew that he wasn't lying to her. She was still very curious. So how strong is he? Statistically speaking, the combined strength of all the cultivators on Earth isn't enough to fight him, Wang Ming said. This was still a conservative way of putting it. He was well aware of his little brother's strength. It wasn't just Earth. If you counted the universe, it was the same. But the concept of the universe was too broad, and he felt that Jiayin might not be able to digest it in a short time. Wang Ming held Jiayin, whose mouth was wide open in shock, in his arms. Factor, now you know why I'm so obsessed with Dao talisman seals, right? I know. Jiayin trembled in his arms. You're sealing a nuclear bomb. At the same time, in the wee hours of the morning, Sparrow entered the boys' dormitory building with a toolbox. When the dormitory manager Auntie on duty saw Sparrow, she hurriedly greeted her warmly. "Little Sparrow, it's all thanks to you this time." That bunch of students suddenly rushed over and almost broke the door. "Your student union's words are still the best. Thank you for your hard work, Auntie." Sparrow smiled, then took out exquisite packages from her backpack and put them on the desk in the duty room. "These are superior mutton cakes. Thank you for your hard work, Auntie. I hope you'll kindly accept them." The dormitory manager Auntie immediately laughed. "Then I won't stand on ceremony. Our little Sparrow is still the most sensible." Seeing Sparrow looking around, she hurriedly asked, "What are you looking for?" "A registration booklet," said Sparrow. "I have to register when I enter the boys' dormitory, right?" "Oh, my little Sparrow, you're too polite. You must be here to visit your boyfriend, right? Don't stand on ceremony with Auntie. Auntie understands. Just go in." The dormitory manager Auntie smiled, already busily unwrapping the mutton cakes and eating them. "Okay, thank you, Auntie." Sparrow smiled politely. When she turned around, her smile quickly dimmed. If this Auntie had asked her to register just now, she would have considered hiding this dormitory manager Auntie as well. At that moment, Sparrow turned her gaze to the elevator at the end of the first floor. And now the youngster she needed to hide was upstairs. Chapter 15-19. Room 704 of the boys' dormitory building in Judeo Area S. This was Wang Ling's current location. Wang Ming had gone to sleep with Xia Yin that night, leaving Wang Ling alone in this empty room. Actually, being alone wasn't much to Wang Ling. He was already used to it. In fact, the moment the Sparrow entered the corridor, Wang Ling had already noticed its presence. There was no doubt that this girl was ruthless. She had actually interpreted Wang Ming's hiding as meaning to kill him. This kind of hardcore underworld style was very much like the Stars Plucker groups. It was just that Wang Ling still wasn't sure if Sparrow had anything to do with the Stars Plucker group. It was likely that he really wouldn't be able to rest tonight. Wang Ling sighed silently. He turned his gaze to the door, listening attentively to Sparrow and the footsteps of another group of people who were plotting against him. When Sparrow boarded the elevator, she had already sensed that something wasn't right. Although the elevator looked empty, however, the Sparrow was sure that there were two other people in this space. They had probably used some kind of magic treasure or spell to make themselves invisible, sneaking around in the boys' dormitory elevator in the middle of the night. Who the hell was this person? Were there still silly girls who would steal men's underwear nowadays? Sparrow pretended to be unperturbed. The moment she determined that there were other people in the elevator, she quickly pressed the button for the third floor. When the elevator reached the third floor, it opened. The Sparrow took a step forward. She then quickly used a stethoscope cable to connect a suction cup to the elevator button, and used her phone to implant a hacker search plugin. In the end, Sparrow detected something. About 10 seconds ago, before she had entered the elevator, someone had pressed the button for the 7th floor. Perhaps they had realized that Sparrow was about to enter the elevator, so they had immediately hidden themselves and then pressed the button. This could be verified by the elevator that was still going up. There was clearly no one in the elevator, but it was still going up. Logically speaking, there shouldn't be anyone else using the elevator at this time. And the most important thing was, this group of people had actually chosen to go to the 7th floor? Wasn't that Backlong Song's dormitory? Could it be that the Rainbow Seven Suns gang had secretly snuck in? The Sparrow felt that it was possible. After using a few seconds to check the buttons of the elevator, Sparrow installed a plugin that allowed the elevator to ascend at a tortoise speed. Then he quickly moved. Using the student union's command card, he unlocked the passageway to the 7th floor. This was the curfew rule unique to Jiudao High School. Once the curfew began, all the corridors would be closed to prevent students from visiting each other through the corridors. However, for a Sparrow with an authorization card, she could come and go as she pleased. Now that she thought about it carefully, the Sparrow felt that this might be the reason why the two of them chose to take the elevator. That was because forcefully breaking through the corridor's restriction might trigger an alarm. In comparison, elevators might be safer. Even if there was a floor lock, it could be easily unlocked by someone who knew how to operate it. However, for a sparrow with an authorization card, she could come and go as she pleased. The Turtle Speed Ascent plugin was extremely useful. This bought a lot of time for Sparrow's next step. When the Sparrow reached the 7th floor, the elevator was still hovering at the 5th floor. In a public toilet cubicle on the 7th floor, the Sparrow applied an invisibility potion to herself. Then, she quickly stuck a tiny, rice grain-sized eavesdropping device in a secret position on the doorknob of each room on the 7th floor. Although the Sparrow had a hunch in her heart, she wasn't sure whether this group of people was after Wang Ling. Therefore, it would be safer to stick a listening device on the doorknob of each room. Everything was ready. As soon as the two of them stepped out of the elevator, the Sparrow in the toilet cubicle heard the clear sound of their conversation. Why is the elevator suddenly rising so slowly? Who knows? By the way, don't you think there's something wrong with that girl just now? Impossible. She's only at the foundation establishment stage. How can she see anything wrong? That's true. But she doesn't look like a decent girl. What kind of decent girl would come to the boys' dormitory in the middle of the night? Young girls nowadays are really bold. This was because of the eavesdropping device glued to each doorknob. As the two of them walked over, the Sparrow could hear every word they said. They were getting closer. The Sparrow heard that the two men finally stopped in front of room 704. As expected, they're after Ho Sang. At that moment, the expression on the Sparrow's face was extremely cold. Judging from their voices, the two of them were middle-aged, and definitely weren't students from Jiudao High School. They sounded like gangsters. The Sparrow was sure she hadn't heard wrong. What were two gangsters who didn't belong to the school doing here? Just as the Sparrow was feeling puzzled, the next round of conversation between the two of them attracted the Sparrow's attention again. 704, this is it. That's right, young Master Jiugong wants us to kidnap these two students with the surname Wang. This is our best chance. No. There seems to be only one person's aura in this dormitory. What should we do? Should we retreat? If we act now and only kidnap one person, the other person will definitely be alarmed. No, we have to carry out tonight's operation. We don't have time. We have to take a gamble. What if the boy with the surname Wang was the one that Miss Sun liked? We just have to take a gamble, and a bicycle will turn into a motorcycle. So that was it. They wanted to kidnap them. And it seemed to be related to the Jiugong family. In the toilet cubicle, the expression on the Sparrow's face was particularly gloomy. After receiving this information, at the same time, his mind was also quickly organizing his logical thoughts. 1. These two people were sent by the Jiugong family, and it was obvious that they wanted to target Ho Langsang and little Erzong. 2. Old V had given her the task of hiding Ho Langsang. It was clear that kidnapping wouldn't be able to completely hide Ho Langsang. 3. Although these two people's goal was the same as Ho Langsang's, their purpose was completely different from hers. Conclusion. These two people would mess things up. They would definitely interfere with Senior Old V's task for her. At this thought, the Sparrow couldn't restrain herself any longer. She directly came out of the cubicle with a fierce look in her eyes. Meanwhile, the two people sent by Jiugong Xiushi were fiddling with the lock at the door of Wang Ling's dormitory. Their movements were very light, as if they were afraid of disturbing Wang Ling inside. However, something unexpected happened. While they were engrossed in picking the lock, a ghostly figure suddenly appeared behind them. It was none other than the strange girl in the elevator. The Sparrow's eyes revealed the expression of an eagle gazing at its prey. She curled the corners of her lips and smiled darkly. Ho Langsang is mine. As soon as she said this, the daggers in her left and right hands instantly stabbed into the bodies of the two people. Jindan. At that moment, the two people had expressions of disbelief and terror on their faces. Chapter 15:20. The white knife went in, and the red knife came out. Sparrow's actions were always neat and tidy. Being sloppy was not her style, and she had plenty of experience killing people. Sparrow moved like a ghost. When she finished circling around, The two Jianghu idlers hired by Jiugong Xiushi were stabbed in the waist on the spot. Both of them revealed a look of shock in their eyes. It was said that students in Jiugong Xiushi High School matured very early, and some reached the golden core stage before graduating. But Sparrow's appearance had opened their eyes. The upper level of the golden core stage was beyond their imagination, and it was not an exaggeration to say that it was shocking. Miss, let's talk. However, Sparrow's stab was not fatal. Both of them were people of the martial world, and they reacted quickly, enduring the pain, and quickly retreated. At the same time, they quickly took 2 pills, one to stop the bleeding, and the other to detoxify. This was to prevent the knives from being smeared with poison and narcotic drugs. Sparrow did not speak, her face was gloomy, and she was even scarier than some female ghosts. She held the dagger in both hands, and blood dripped from the tip of the dagger, dripping onto the ground, and then blossoming like a blood-colored flower. Retreat. One of the 2 men, who looked older, said. From the volume of his hair, it was obvious that he was the commander of this operation. When the order to retreat was given, the 2 moved quickly, and directly opened the window on the 7th floor, planning to jump from there. It was only a distance of 7 floors, and a golden core cultivator would not die from such a small distance. Just as they were about to jump, Sparrow stabbed again, stabbing their calves. The tip of the knife pierced through their calves and into the wall, firmly pinning them to the window sill like nails. The 2 instinctively wanted to scream in pain, but when they thought that their screams might cause a commotion in the entire building, they gritted their teeth and held it in. Behind them, the demon-like girl approached, and without thinking, the 2 quickly pulled out the dagger from their legs. They jumped from the 7th floor as if they were escaping. It was as if they had experienced a horror game. Who would have thought that there would be such a crazy woman in a male dormitory? Damn. I knew this girl wasn't normal. The balding man in the lead gritted his teeth in pain. He ran away just like that? What about the mission? You're still thinking about the mission at this time? Of course, his life was more important. Just now, that crazy girl clearly had the chance to kill us, but she didn't stab us in the vital parts. This is obviously intentional. The Mediterranean man was terrified. I'm afraid he wants to torture us to death bit by bit. In fact, this was not wrong. Torture to death, but the Sparrow had this intention. On the windowsill, the Sparrow stared at the blood on the ground and on the windowsill. She couldn't help but stick out her tongue and lick the blood that had splashed on the corner of her lips. Unfortunately, the 2 of them ran too fast. She originally wanted to drill a few holes in their calves with the dagger. She was the real hunter. It was clear that Ho Langsang belonged to her. After that, she had to personally end Langsang's life. This was a mission given to her by her most respected senior, Old V. No one could stop it. All those who snatched the mission had to die. Run? Do you think you can escape? Sparrow sneered at the sight of the 2 fleeing figures. It was just as the 2 of them had thought. She had tampered with the dagger a little, but she had smeared it. It wasn't poison. After being attacked by Sparrow, the 2 kidnappers whom Hideshi Kuga had sent to hire Wang Ling chose to retreat at the first opportunity. Their retreat route had been decided beforehand, so they were able to retreat very quickly. In the wee hours of the morning, at a corner a few streets away from Jiudao High, the 2 of them quickly boarded a black van. Did the mission fail? At that moment, a voice came from the driver's seat. Their other accomplice was also in the van. Jiudao High is too scary. A crazy girl chased after us and slashed at us. The 2 of them said with lingering fear. They had taken out first aid kits and were cleaning their wounds and bandaging them. Young master will be very angry, right? Nonsense. Because the plan was to kidnap that Wang guy to threaten Lotus Sun with. Now that the plan has failed, he's definitely angry. The Mediterranean man was treating his wounds. Speaking up to this point, he suddenly felt that there was something wrong with the driver today. Just as he was feeling suspicious, at that moment, the driver spoke again. Do you think I'm talking a little too much today? That's right, old Chai, you don't usually talk that much. Don't you feel a little dizzy now? When you put it like that, it seems a little. The Mediterranean man frowned. At that moment, he looked at his accomplice, and suddenly realized that he had already fainted and was foaming at the mouth. When I stabbed him, I didn't put any poison on the knife. But the medicine on the knife clashed with an elixir with a hemostatic effect, and it turned into a hallucinogen. Hearing the driver's words, the middle-aged Mediterranean man in the driver's seat suddenly understood. At that moment, the strong smell of blood wafted over, and he looked in the direction of the back of the van. He saw that their real driver had already collapsed in the back of the van. Covered in blood, he was completely lying in a pool of it. You are. At that moment, the middle-aged man suddenly understood. With the sound of blood dripping, the driver in the driver's seat abruptly turned around and took off his mask. His mouth suddenly split open. Did the person who stabbed you earlier look like this? The middle-aged man could no longer resist the effects of the hallucinogen, and his face was deathly pale as he fainted. Triple kill complete. Sparrow closed her eyes. Smelling the smell of blood in the van, she suddenly felt at ease. At the same time, Wang Ling opened his eyes in dorm 704. After his earlier observation, he was now certain that this vice president of the student union at Jiudaohe High School was a combination of a ghost and a human, just like Miss Jiudao Xinghui of the Star Pluckers. Furthermore, the combination was very high. Apart from the fact that she would reveal the aura of a ghost at specific times, the smell that Sparrow usually smelled like a human was undoubtedly the smell of a ghost. Currently, it was already known that the Star Pluckers and the Silverskin people had jointly developed the technology to combine ghosts and human cultivators. Wang Ling thought that perhaps the reason why Sparrow had become what she was now was inextricably linked to the Star Pluckers' research. Jiudao Xinghui was Chieshohu's daughter, and Chieshohu wouldn't use this technology lightly unless he was absolutely certain that it would work. For this reason, he needed a large number of test subjects, and Sparrow was one of them. That was all. Actually, this wasn't Wang Ling's own guess. Because now, the three people sitting cross-legged in front of him who Wang Ling had saved from Sparrow were telling him everything they knew. Senior, this is all we know. At that moment, the three of them kowtowed to Wang Ling, but they couldn't see his face clearly. They couldn't clearly see Wang Ling's face, but Wang Ling's aura was so powerful that it struck fear into their hearts. As a matter of fact, the moment the Sparrow made the first stab, Wang Ling had already activated the power of his king's eye. He used his power of sight to distort the boundary between reality and illusion. As a result, everything that had happened just now was reality in the eyes of Sparrow, but dream in the eyes of the three middle-aged men. Everything in this world. Everything had and nothing had. Everything that was real and fake. It all depended on Wang Ling's will. Chapter 1521. Wang Ling actually had a very limited number of uses for the King's Eye's 8-character eye technique, which is and is not, reality and illusion coexist. In his memory, he had only used this 8 eyes technique, less than 3 times in total, and the first 2 times he used it were just a prank after he had unintentionally misbehaved. The power of the 8-word eye technique was self-evident. It could twist reality into an illusion. Then he turned the illusion into reality. This kind of ability was too terrifying. The slightest carelessness could trigger a series of butterfly effects. He was using it on the Sparrow. It was also because the difference in combat strength between him and the Sparrow was large enough that even if there was a butterfly effect, the Sparrow would not be able to pose a substantial threat. However, if it was used to deal with someone at Peng Shiren's level, Wang Ling had to weigh the pros and cons. Wang Ling felt that it was more reliable to kill someone like Peng Shiren in one move. In this way, there would be no possibility of new problems arising. And the reason why he still kept Peng Shiren alive was because of this. There was no other reason. It was all because of that black stone. Such a large piece of black stone was left in Peng Shiren's hands. Wang Ling's heart itched unbearably. But now, Peng Shiren seemed to be using the power of the black stone to hide and deal with him from behind. He wanted to see how long this Peng Shiren could hide. As long as he dared to show his face, that mysterious black stone, Wang Ling was determined to win. At this moment, together with the driver who had been keeping a lookout on the street, The two people who had been sent by Hideshi Q to kidnap Wang Ling were already so shocked by Wang Ling's methods that they prostrated themselves and kowtowed. They didn't even dare to raise their heads, and they naturally felt a sense of reverence. This saved Wang Ling a lot of trouble. The balding leader's heart was as clear as a mirror. A big shot like this who didn't care about worldly affairs and chose to hide his identity as a high school student definitely didn't want others to see his face. There were some things that were better off not knowing. Otherwise, even 10 lives wouldn't be enough. According to the self-introduction, the bald man's name was One Circle. The lackeys who followed him and the driver who waited on the street were called Second Circle and Third Circle. They had no names. They were all vagrants with a certain cultivation potential that Xiushi of the 9 Palaces had picked from the streets. He had no parents and was homeless, but his foundation was good and suitable for cultivation. Thus, Kwamiya Hideshi ordered his one-eyed warrior to search for such a group of people and nurture them into his subordinates. The 3 people in front of him were the most experienced among all the people Jiugong Xiushi had gathered. Senior. Young Master Xiushi, we didn't mean to offend you. If you must blame us, you can take our lives. Don't hurt young Master Xiushi. The person in the lead called One Circle said. After all, with their backgrounds, without the help of Jiugong Xiushi, they would probably still be idlers in society. No matter how evil Jiugong Xiushi was. To them, he was also a benefactor. Wang Ling was actually a little touched by One Circle's words. One Circle was a man. He was willing to give up his life for Jiugong Xiushi. In a sense, Jiugong Xiushi had a good eye for people. At the same time, he sighed helplessly in his heart. He didn't mean to take anyone's life. I don't know why so many people would put the strong in front of me. His mind was immediately filled with the image of a demon who would kill at the slightest provocation. Although he was very strong, he wasn't a demon at all. He was just an ordinary high school student. His studies were ordinary, and his looks were also very ordinary. Wang Ling always felt that he was the type of person who would be drowned in a sea of people. But for some reason, there seemed to be an invisible vortex around him that would always draw all kinds of trouble to him, as well as things that he didn't want to meddle in at all. And that was exactly what had happened to the sparrow. After confirming that there was some kind of hidden ghost on the sparrow, in order to further confirm his guess, Wang Ling needed to find someone to investigate. He was unfamiliar with Sun Island. So in this situation, 1 Circle, 2 Circle and 3 Circle in front of him were very good choices. He summoned the talkative clone he had named Backwave. He began to communicate with the 3 of them further. Wang Ling wasn't good with words, so it was actually very important to have a talkative clone. Tonight, in order to save the students who had been forcibly turned into ghosts, Wang Ling even had the urge to use his talkative clone to express his opinion in his place. The summoned Wang Lang looked a little different from Wang Ling. This wasn't a real clone. It was 1 level lower than Crispy Noodle's Dao Monarch, and was set to be the sunny, cheerful, and easygoing type. Hello, the 3 of you. My master wants you to investigate the sparrow. Is there a problem? Wang Lang said at that moment. Senior, are you talking about that little lunatic? To be honest, 1 Circle still had lingering fears. This isn't making things difficult for you, is it? I'm just asking you to investigate. It's not like you're betraying your young master, Wang Lang said. This yes but yes. 1 Circle said a little awkwardly. But as you can see, Senior, that little lunatic is at the upper golden core stage. The 3 of us aren't her match. Don't worry about that. I'll plant the 8 words of truth on you. The effect will be the same as what you saw before. Wang Lang laughed. Once you're in mortal danger, you'll immediately turn into an illusion. You'll be out of danger. I see. The 3 of them looked at each other and nodded. But my master's time is limited. He'll give you 12 hours at most. We need all the information we can on that student sparrow. Understood. At that moment, 1 Circle got up. He patted his chest confidently and said, Senior, don't worry and leave it to us. 1 Circle and the other 2 then quickly left the dormitory. Wang Ling breathed a sigh of relief, and at the same time, the clone called Wang Lang next to him also disappeared. What Wang Ling hadn't expected was that Wang Ying was actually a little unhappy. He directly revealed himself in front of Wang Ling. If there's anything, can't you just pass it on to me? Isn't it superfluous to specially create a chatterbox clone? Wang Ling had actually always felt that Wang Ying wasn't suited to this sort of persuasion work. Although he was also a chatterbox like Wang Lang, it was easier to get things done with his tone, which was clearly meant for discussion. But Wang Ying was different. Thinking this, Wang Ling wiped at his sweat. Why hadn't he used Wang Ying? In the end, Wang Ying himself didn't have the slightest idea. Just look at Sun Yinger. He was already so cruel to a girl. What more to other people? There was no way he could talk nicely. With Wang Ying's personality, he would definitely not talk if he could make a move. And regarding this, Wang Ling felt that Wang Ying would suffer sooner or later. If he didn't rein in his temper, between him and Sun Yinger, something big was going to happen. After assigning tasks to one circle, Wang Ling finally had a moment of peace in this chaotic night. In the girls' dormitory in 9 Paths and Area S, Lotus Sun stood on the windowsill and looked at each other from afar. She was always worried about Wang Ling, and worried that something would go wrong over there. It was getting colder tonight, and a sense of loneliness welled up in her heart. She had thought that she would go talk to Jai Yin tonight. But now, Jai Yin and Wang Ming were being intimate. It really wasn't appropriate for her to just go over like that. Her last consolation seemed to be Sun Yinger. Rong, rest early. Don't think about it. The girl's voice rang out in Lotus Sun's ear as she spoke softly. Lotus Sun was startled, and there was a slight absent-mindedness in her eyes. She leaned against the window for a while, and suddenly felt warmth on her shoulder. Someone had covered her with a blanket. I'm not cold, she said with a smile at that moment. She suddenly felt that Sun Yinger was more considerate than she had imagined. I didn't cover it either. Sun Yinger was blank. Not you. Lotus Sun was startled. Yes. There's something wrong with this blanket. It flew over on its own. Sun Yinger said in a panic at first and then quickly reacted. I know. It must be Ling Jinren. Classmate Wang Ling. A warm current instantly surged from her body to the girl's face. It was a lonely night, yes. But it was also a very beautiful night. It was clearly just an ordinary blanket. However, the smell on it seemed to have a special sweetness to it. Sometimes Lotus Sun felt that Wang Ling was very gentle, but also very cruel. The youngster was always able to inadvertently give her gentleness. But it seemed forget it. Lotus Sun shook her head. She wasn't going to think about it in detail. It was fine as long as she spent some more time, right? She was already fully prepared, wasn't she? No matter how many years it would take. She could afford it. And she wouldn't give up. It was still the morning of December 16th. At around 6 o'clock, Sparrow changed into a fresh set of clothes and returned to her dorm at Jiuha High School. No one knew that just a few hours ago, this vice president of the student union at Jiuha High School had killed 3 people. It was very troublesome to deal with the bodies of 3 people. Sparrow drove to the back of the mountain and found an open space. She used a chi explosion spell to blast open a small pit and bury the bodies. Then, she used the corpse dissolving powder to dissolve the bodies. This corpse dissolving powder had originally been used to deal with Wang Ling's Sparrow didn't have much on her to begin with. But to dissolve 3 golden cores, this amount was far from enough. At most, it would only be enough to disintegrate the bodies. That was to say, some of the remains of these 3 people would still be left. Helpless, Sparrow could only drag them to the back of the mountain behind Jiuha High School and dispose of them all at once. Sparrow dug this pit very deep, unless there was some sort of large-scale mudslide or landslide. No one would know that 3 bodies were buried here. Of course, this was just in case. Sparrow was still prepared for the aftermath. She happened to be a cultivator with a wood spirit root. It wasn't too difficult to use tree planting to make vegetation grow rapidly. She just needed to plant a few big trees where the bodies were buried to prevent the remains from being discovered. Furthermore, as the roots grew, Sparrow could also set them into the shape she wanted. And through a claw position, she could wrap the remains in place. After doing all this, it was already morning when she returned to the student union. Sitting in her vice president's seat, she heaved a long sigh of relief. She then took a spirit-boosting elixir to prevent herself from looking lazy. She had never been someone who liked to be lazy. When Akano Usagi returned to the student union office, he looked radiant. Sparrow couldn't help feeling a little happy. Did it work last night? Seeing Chive Usagi's expression, she thought that she had completely settled Lotus Sunday. Chive Usagi smiled like a pig-headed teenager in puberty. Rubbing his head, he said, "No." Classmate Sparrow, after you drew all the attention to classmate Wang Ling yesterday, I actually hesitated for a long time about whether or not to send classmate Lotus Sun a message. We were tearing up the roses in the room, send or not. Just like that, I tore up the rose petals all over the floor. The corners of Sparrow's mouth twitched. Oh. I worked myself to death all night, and even killed 3 people in passing, and you're still freaking thinking about whether or not to send a message. In the end, did you send it or not? Staring at Chive Usagi, Sparrow felt like she was having a brain hemorrhage. No. After I finished tearing up the roses, Lotus Sun came to me of her own accord. She said she wanted to talk to me. After saying this, Sparrow instantly spat out a mouthful of blood. After tearing up the roses all night, she still hadn't sent them out. It could only be said that this was as expected of her president. Sure enough, she was hopeless. All along, Sparrow had thought that Chive Usagi only looked stupid. At the very least, he was the type who looked stupid with great intelligence. But now Sparrow had no choice but to retract this thought. None of the adolescent girls in love were normal. And the most outrageous thing was that Chive Usagi actually thought he was very powerful and felt very good about himself. He stared at Sparrow and smiled. Well, I didn't expect Lotus Sun to take the initiative to ask me out. Do you think she's interested in me? I feel like my rank isn't low. I actually have a physique that automatically attracts beautiful girls. Sparrow was silent for a moment, and then she had a headache. She rubbed her eyes and temples. She felt that she had to do a set of eye exercises to calm down. Otherwise, it was very likely that she would be angered to death by Chive Usagi. After a few minutes of calming down, Sparrow expressionlessly reminded him, "You're lucky you didn't get the good guy card." "How could that be? I'm so outstanding. I'm countless times better than Lang-san." Chive Usagi smiled. Chive Usagi chuckled. "Chive Usagi. But this time, no matter what, I still have to thank you for your help, little Sparrow. Without you, I might not even have the courage to tear up the roses. But looking at the situation now, I think it's developing in a positive direction. Tell me, which level do you think I'm at?" Sparrow fell silent again. Based on her understanding of girls, it was absolutely certain that Chive Usagi would get the good guy card. This level? He was clearly at the 18th level of hell. P.S. Who do you think the blanket is? 1. Wang Ling. 2. Wang Ying. 3. Unknown ghost. Chapter 15:22. There was nothing wrong with being a little confident, but being overconfident was stupid. However, there was a saying that youths in love were all mentally retarded, and Sparrow thought that this saying was perfectly reflected in Chive Sasaki. But it was normal for a straight man like Chive Sasaki to be unable to understand the meaning of a girl. When a girl who didn't have a good impression of you suddenly asked you out for a heart-to-heart talk, it wasn't that she had a mental problem, but that she was probably giving you the good guy card. It was as if Sparrow could already hear Lotus Sun's smile as she earnestly said to Chive Sasaki, "You're a good guy." But looking at Chive Sasaki's smiling face, Sparrow felt that he clearly didn't realize the seriousness of the problem. "Do you really like that lady that much?" Sparrow asked in the office of Jiodao and the student union. What Chive Sasaki didn't know was that his answer was actually a choice for Sparrow's next step. Chive Sasaki's face was red, and the rapidly rising temperature was accompanied by the steam he was emitting, causing his neat bangs to blow backwards. Of course," Chive Sasaki said. He felt that he liked Lotus Sun more than he had imagined. He had worked so hard to cultivate for so many years for her. After the Sparrow's reminder last time, he instantly understood that his feelings for Lotus Sun were not hatred. Rather, it was a kind of worship, liking, and love. He had worked so hard to cultivate just to be able to catch up to the footsteps of this goddess in his heart. Chive Sasaki's answer to Sparrow's question was very honest. Just from his expression, one could see his true feelings for Lotus Sunday. I understand. Sparrow's face was gloomy as she replied. Why are you asking this, classmate Sparrow? Nothing. I just wish you a long life together, Sparrow said. At this moment, Chive Sasaki didn't know that she was sorting out a plan in her notebook. It was a complete plan to kill Lotus-san. She felt that Chive Sasaki would be given the good guy card anyway. When the time came, he would definitely feel pain, so she might as well end it all with her own hands. What Chive Sasaki couldn't get, then she would completely destroy it. After lunch that day, Lotus-san hurried to a coffee shop outside the school. During the lunch break of Jadahe, the students here were free to go out. When Lotus-san entered the cafe's private room, Chive Sasaki was already waiting for her. He ordered the cafe's specialty desserts and steaming hot hand-ground coffee, waiting expectantly for Lotus-san to arrive. But what they didn't know was that the people next door to their private room were none other than Wang Ming, Jai-in and Wang Ling. Of course, it wasn't Wang Ling who had volunteered to come, but Wang Ming and Jai-in who had sensed that something wasn't right had dragged him along. Wang Ling sucked on the coffee in the crispy noodle snacks and stared expressionlessly at the two chattering people in front of him. Little brother, why can't you be anxious? Wang Ming frowned. Miss Rong is meeting another man for coffee. Do you think this Leek Sasaki press has good intentions? This isn't as simple as pouring a cup of cappuccino for an old auntie. He's clearly interested in Miss Rong. Wang Ling. Wang Ming's mouth was like a machine gun. In fact, he knew very well what Lotus-san was here for. The reason why he had dragged Wang Ling over was purely to see his little brother's reaction. As it turned out, Wang Ling wasn't nervous at all, as expected. Wang Ming couldn't help sighing in his heart. It seemed that what he was most worried about had happened. Was it because the talisman had been suppressed for too long? As a result, Wang Ling had become a completely emotionless person. Although the talisman could seal off emotions to a certain extent, Wang Ming had overlooked a very important point all this time. That was, if emotions were sealed for too long, it was very likely that a kind of habitual thinking would form in the heart and mind. In the worst-case scenario, it might form a cage-like seal in one's heart. Wang Ming frowned. The more he thought about it, the more he felt the importance of developing a new type of talisman, for the safety of the earth and the universe, and at the same time, for his little brother's happiness. Wang Ling lowered his head and stirred the crispy noodle snacks in his hand with a coffee spoon. The waiter outside glanced in their direction every now and then. This coffee shop had a DIY coffee service, and the waiter was amazed because he had never seen this kind of drinking method before. He had seen immortal grass, taro balls, aloe vera jelly, but he had never seen crispy noodle snacks as the base. Could this stuff really be drunk? Elsewhere in the private room, Leek Sasaki looked at Lotus-san in high spirits, his face full of happiness and satisfaction. I wonder why Lotus-san is looking for me today. You're not going to say that I'm a good person, are you? Hearing this, Lotus-san almost choked, but after staring blankly for a moment, she still smiled and said, How did classmate Leek Sasaki know? Leek Sasaki's heart instantly felt like it had been struck by lightning. Lotus-san, so straightforward. Leek Sasaki smiled bitterly. I have something even more straightforward. Lotus-san smiled. But I actually don't want to hurt classmate Leek Sasaki, because classmate Leek Sasaki is indeed a very good person who is very hardworking and ambitious. But the two of us aren't suitable. This time, Lotus-san had come with the intention of breaking everything and explaining it all to the world. At the same time, she was also afraid of hurting Leek Sasaki's self-esteem. Thus, as she laid her cards on the table, she also did her best to consider Leek Sasaki's feelings. Although I'm very disappointed, I'm very touched that Lotus-san can tell me so frankly. I'm very touched. Leek Sasaki smiled. Then can we still be friends in the future? We're friends now, Lotus-san said with a smile. That kind of gentle and refined yet generous personality made Leek Sasaki's heart itch. He felt that a boy who could be liked by Lotus-san must have saved the Milky Way, or the universe in his previous life. Otherwise, he wouldn't be able to find such a good girl even if he had a lantern. Since we're friends, then Lotus-san can call me Leek from now on. Calling me classmate Leek Sasaki is too formal. Okay, brother Leek. Lotus-san smiled. She knew that Leek Sasaki was older than her. In order to get closer to him, she didn't think it was too much to call him brother. Rong-chan, can I ask another question? At this moment, Chive Sasaki sighed slightly and asked. Of course. I want to know, what's wrong with me? Even if I die, you have to let me die knowing. Leek Sasaki didn't know whether to laugh or cry. Well, Lotus-san stared blankly then quickly blushed. She stared at Leek Sasaki and said seriously, that's because I already have someone I like, and I want to be with him for the rest of my life. Chapter 15:23. The girl's voice wasn't particularly loud when she spoke, but the seriousness on her face still shocked Leek Sasaki. It's great that Ryo-chan has found someone she really likes. He was genuinely happy for her. Perhaps this was a kind of relief after being rejected. His impression of Lotus-san hadn't collapsed because she had rejected him, but had become even more solid than before. A girl who could bravely ask out other people who had feelings for her for the person she really liked, and then give them a nice person card. Wasn't this kind of girl worth cherishing? When it came to relationships, Leek Sasaki had never been the forceful type. He felt that expressing one's true feelings was the way to go. If you liked someone, then you liked them. If you didn't like them, then say so earlier. Don't let people misunderstand. Many boys and girls, because they were hesitant and didn't know how to express their stance, kept a lot of spare tires. This was a very impolite behavior of scum men and scum women. Because of their personalities, some of these people might not have done it on purpose, while others simply wanted to keep a few more wallets that could feed them. No matter what, I still have to thank you this time, Ryo-chan. Leek Sasaki thanked her from the bottom of his heart. Brother Leek, why are you thanking me? Lotus-san roughly knew what Leek Sasaki was thinking, but out of politeness, she still asked. He laughed. I remember I have a buddy who likes a girl. That girl never directly rejected him. On the contrary, she would send him messages, asking him to buy this and that. Just like that, my buddy was dead set on pursuing her, until one day, when he was eating in a restaurant, he found her with another boy. That's too much. How could he leave her hanging like that? Lotus-san said. Who said otherwise? Leek Sasaki sighed. Later, my buddy felt that he had been deceived. He went up to question her on the spot. In the end, he flipped through the girl's phone contact list and found that apart from herself, she was also chatting with 78 boys as her boyfriend and girlfriend. 78. The corners of Lotus-san's eyes twitched when she heard this. Leek Sasaki laughed. So I'm actually very happy that Ryo-chan took the initiative to talk to me about everything. Besides, we can still be friends, can't we? Of course. Lotus-san smiled. The meet and greet at the cafe was smoother than she had imagined. At this moment, a shop assistant suddenly barged into their private room. Hello miss, your refill is a crispy noodle snack coffee. The shop assistant pushed the door open, and saw that the people sitting inside were different from the ones he had just served. Only then did he realize that he had gone to the wrong place. He hurriedly apologized. Sorry, I went the wrong way. I'm really sorry for disturbing the two of you. Only after they left did Lotus-san realize something. Wait, who ordered this cup of coffee? I'm sorry, miss. We can't reveal our customers' privacy. The shop assistant smiled. He quickly rushed out of the private room, and saw that Lotus-san had also followed him out. The shop assistant. It's yours, I was just passing by. Lotus-san smiled. The shop assistant had no choice but to bring the coffee to the private room Wang Ming was in. When he entered, the young man was stunned because he realized that the young man who had invented this new way of drinking coffee had disappeared. Brother heir, sister factor, what a coincidence. Lotus-san smiled knowingly. After their eavesdropping was exposed, Wang Ming and Jai-in promptly dropped their foreheads into their hands. Actually, it was a little unfortunate that Wang Ling hadn't heard the end of the conversation. The coffee in his hand had instantly disappeared, as if something urgent had happened, but given Wang Ling's temper, Even if he had heard it, he probably wouldn't have reacted. Wang Ling had indeed run away halfway. And it was indeed because something had happened. But it wasn't Wang Ming who had said it was because something urgent had happened. Because he had received a message from the Sun Island Mahjong trio. Wang Ling himself hadn't expected that one circle and the other two would actually immediately carry out a series of investigations on the matter. He had given them in the wee hours of the morning, and had already made some progress. Wang Ling and the representative of the trio, the balding middle-aged one circle, had successfully made contact near Maple Park, which was the closest to Jiudao High School. In front of an ice cream shop, one circle held an ice cream cone with crispy noodle snack crumbs on it as he waited for Wang Ling. In the blink of an eye, Wang Ling had already appeared in front of one circle. For safety reasons, Wang Ling had activated the Great Shielding spell to the maximum. That was to say, even if someone saw him now, as long as he left for a while, they would completely forget about him. Holang sang, "We've made new progress in our investigation." One circle handed the ice cream cone to Wang Ling, then explained the clues they had obtained so far with a serious expression on his face. "It's like this. After Wei Chun received the task, we immediately investigated Student Sparrow's residence," one circle said. "After our investigation, we found out that apart from the school's Area S Student Union Cadre dormitory, Student Sparrow actually has an additional villa in Sun Island's Dongfu City. The name belongs to Student Sparrow." Speaking up to this point, one circle showed Wang Ling a photo of the villa's property certificate. It had been taken through special means, and it was obvious that they had been in a hurry to gather the information. But the key information was there, and the photo was very clear. It was only now that Wang Ling saw Sparrow's real name, Six-Eyed Scarlet Wazi. At first glance, it was a very familiar name, especially the Qi character in the middle, because this Qi was the Qi of the Qi family, and the Qi family was the one who currently controlled the largest underworld organization on Sun Island, the Star Plucking Group. Even if he didn't calculate it, Wang Ling had a vague feeling. He felt that Sparrow had something to do with the Qi family. As it turned out, it was indeed true. Given that crazy girl's financial strength, there's no way she could have her own villa in an area like Dongfu City. So we conducted an in-depth investigation into the girl's identity. In the end, we discovered that the girl was the illegitimate daughter of the current leader of the Star Plucking Group, Chiba Chiba. And it was Chiba Chiba who bought this villa for her. So far, all the information had key photos as evidence. To confirm this point, we deliberately extracted the girl's DNA, one circle said. They couldn't collect Chiba Chiba's DNA, but they did have Kyuka Starlight's DNA. Hideshi Q had always been wary of this sixth wife of their family. Thus, he had long since planned to extract DNA data. The method was also very simple. They just needed to put away the utensils that Kyuka Starlight had used. The Chi family's DNA data could be obtained from the saliva on the utensils. As for Sparrow's DNA data, one circle had a harder time obtaining it. First of all, Sparrow was a cautious and clean person. This was the case in both her residence and her villa. Spotless. Not even a strand of hair. But as luck would have it, one circle and the others were very lucky, because just this morning, they discovered that Sparrow was on her period. This was a physiological phenomenon that no girl could avoid. After Sparrow left the women's restroom, one circle directly rushed into the school's restroom. He snatched the blood-stained sanitary pad from the trash can. It could only be said that as expected of the Sun Island Mahjong trio, who had been groomed by Hideshi Q's side for a long time, and had been working for him since childhood, this was indeed a neat and efficient way of doing things. Furthermore, they weren't afraid of danger. With Sparrow's information, the storyline in Wang Ling's mind gradually became clear. Everything was as he had imagined. Sparrow was related to the Star Plucking Group. The Star Plucking Group had been experimenting with the human-ghost fusion technology, and Sparrow had been the first to be used as a test subject by Chie Chiohu. In the end, Qiu Xinghui was the daughter of his first wife, and given that she was treated differently, Chie Chiohu had used his illegitimate daughter, Sparrow, as his first test subject. Even a vicious tiger wouldn't eat its cubs. This kind of evil behavior was enough to make people tremble in fear. And now Wang Ling finally realized why the sparrow had become so crazy. The source of all this was sin. It had all started with Jie Qiuhu of the star plucking group. At this thought, he already knew what was going on. Last night, after he had sent his little clone to wreak havoc in the star plucking group's golden city, Jie Qiuhu and that silver-skinned human king's auras had disappeared. He guessed that the other party had probably received Peng Shiren's protection. The three of them were probably hiding in the space covered by the power of black stone and playing Fight the Landlord. The situation now seemed to have stabilized. But he didn't think it would last for long. Peng Shiren wouldn't have the patience to wait too long. This was a ferocious, venomous snake lurking in the dark. Once the other party felt that it was the right opportunity to make a move, it definitely wouldn't miss it. And what Wang Ling needed to do now was just waiting, and create an opportunity for them to think that he could make a move, and that he would definitely win. But there was only one chance to lure the snake out of its hole, because if he used the same method to trick them again next time, it probably wouldn't be so easy. At that moment, Wang Ling already had a sure-win plan. This time, once Peng Shiren showed his face, he would definitely capture Peng Shiren along with that mysterious black stone. One person, one stone. He wanted them all. Time: Wednesday, December 16th, 1:30 in the afternoon. After parting ways with One Circle, Wang Ling returned to Nine Paths and high school. Before he left, he had warned One Circle to return to normal. Even if Qu Xinghui wanted him to make a move, he shouldn't disobey him. Wang Ling would make everything seem like an accident. When that time came, even if Qu Xinghui blamed him, he wouldn't be able to blame One Circle and the others. That was to say, One Circle, Two Circle and Three Circle were the three closest to Qu Xinghui. Now they had all become pawns that Wang Ling could use. This would play a key role in Lotus Sun's plan to disguise herself as Ryoko Q. Wang Ling returned to Class S. He realized that Class S seemed to be a lot more harmonious today. Lang-san, if there's anything you don't understand, you can ask me. Lang-san? Are you thirsty? I'll treat you to a drink. You can drink whatever you want. Lang-san, you came with Rong-chan abroad this time. Is it because you have a particularly good relationship with her? Lang-san, Rong-chan said that you're stronger than her? She's probably joking, right? You're so cute, just like a slime. Are you really that strong? He didn't know if it was because Lotus Sun and Akano Yagi had laid their cards on the table and reconciled. Many people saw that Lotus Sun and Akano Yagi's relationship had improved, and the tense atmosphere instantly changed. Furthermore, there were always people who kept asking Wang Ling strange questions. Wang Ling marveled at how true it was in his heart. At the same time, he paid some attention to that student sparrow. Just like before, she still looked as if it had nothing to do with her. After school that day, the president of the student union, Akano Yagi, made an official announcement. He said that he was going to hold a closed-door cultivator martial arts competition for the Nine Paths and high schools. The reason why they had chosen to hold a closed-door event was actually because Akano Yagi had fully considered Lotus Sun's intentions after giving his opinion. This was because the Sun Island High School ranking list had been hacked last night. As a result, the data hadn't been restored yet. Everyone on the ranking list had an ID called Backwave. Thus, after some discussion, the student unions of the major high schools on Sun Island decided to hold a closed-door martial arts competition in their own high schools. The 5 representatives with the strongest battle prowess were chosen. The 5-member delegation would directly represent their schools in the group stage. They would be selected from 100 high schools, and would ultimately be ranked based on their overall score in the competition. Similarly, the entire process would be behind closed doors. Apart from the participants, the competition would be completely private, and filming and live streaming were prohibited. All the high schools had almost unanimously expressed their support for this private, closed-door competition. Wang Ling found this inconceivable. After all, most young people nowadays love to be in the limelight. Later on, Wang Ling found out. It turned out that Sun Island was going to hold an even larger, international open competition for high school cultivators. Many of the high schools had agreed to this closed-door challenge for the sake of concealment tactics in advance. In any case, It wasn't public, and the entire process was prohibited from being recorded. Even if they used tactics in advance, it wouldn't be spread for people to study. And the point was that it wouldn't be too embarrassing if they lost. There were advantages to being behind closed doors. At the very least, there wasn't as much psychological pressure. After school, Akano Yagi put an invitation on Wang Ling's desk. Wang Ling raised his head and looked at Akano Yagi with a puzzled expression. Akano Yagi smiled. Even if it's temporary, Holangsang is now a member of our 9 paths. I sincerely hope that Holangsang can also participate in this event. Although we haven't spent much time together, I have a feeling that we can become very good friends, right? Also, everyone is very interested in Holangsang, and I hope that he can show everyone his true skills through this closed-door competition. Wang Ling was silent. In the end, he still accepted the invitation. Since it was a closed-door competition, there was no harm in participating. As for whether or not to show his true skills, Wang Ling felt that it was better not to. You're tuning in to the Li Mei's Wuxia Whispers YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.